Chapter 25-23. Demonic Moon Prefecture Destroyed. Oh, what a change of tone! Jian Wushuang's lips curled up as his face laced with a jesting expression. Are you threatening me with the 17 other prefectures? Well, let's give it a go. Give it a go. The Demonic Moon Prefecture experts glowered, but Jian Wushuang made his first move before their eyes. Rumbling, the infinite golden divine powers poured on the people and oppressed them. In an instant, each of their experts was suppressed by a domain-like force. **T. Is this a domain restriction? How can it be so powerful? Damn it, he's about to wipe us out. The experts were shocked and desperately looking for an escape path. Governor screamed, frantically, Stop, stop. The other 17 prefectures will surely take revenge on you. Jian Wushuang was unruffled. His majestic sword intent swept across the area as 11 apparitions appeared at the same time, which went in for the kill. Before his first-class divine demon breakthrough, Jian Wushuang was already able to take out a few ultimate gods. However, his performance was completely incomparable after the breakthrough. Under the golden prison and domain suppression, those people of Demonic Moon Prefectures had no way to escape. A series of forbidding sword shadows constantly flickered in the golden prison. Its ever-changing flickering styles sent heads flying and bodies falling with each flicker. There were many within the Demonic Moon Prefecture who were not weak in strength or combat prowess, but they were unable to deflect Jian Wushuang's attacks. No, come on, let's attack him together. Run, run. Shrill and howling of every kind came from each corner, but they were drowned by the golden prison's walls. A quarter of an hour had passed when the world finally calmed down. Xiao Tiexin was standing on the edge of the golden prison with shock and horror in her eyes as she stared at everything in front of her. They are dead. All the bandits in Demonic Moon Prefecture, including the governor, are dead. Xiao Tiexin's heart quivered. Demonic Moon Prefecture, one of the 18 prefectures in Dark Thunder Territory, was not only infamous within the Dark Thunder Territory, but also in the entire Northern Darkstar territory. Besides, the Demonic Moon Prefecture's overall strength was strong as they had one high-level ultimate god, 8 primary-level ultimate gods, and thousands of divine demons, which many were either peak divine demons or first-class divine demons. Such a lineup was stronger than many overlords or sects in the world. The Great Compassion Sect, which was the top sect in Wuxia Wilderness, only had one high-level ultimate god and 3 primary-level ultimate gods, which was inferior to Demonic Moon Prefecture. However, Jian Wushuang alone extirpated the Demonic Moon Prefecture. The Demonic Moon Prefecture was destroyed. Neither their bandits nor higher-ups like their governor could escape the golden prison and Jian Wushuang's attacks. All of them were killed. Rumbling, the golden prison enveloping the prefecture soon faded away. The huge Demonic Moon Prefecture appeared once again under the sun, but bloody seams and bodies were strewn across the area. Jian Wushuang scoured the bones, collecting interspatial rings and treasures which were left behind. Jian Wushuang and Xiao Tiexin left an hour later. Jian Wushuang had already counted the various resources and treasures he had collected from the Demonic Moon Prefecture in the void. Not bad. I've gained 29,000 primordial stones after extirpating the Demonic Moon Prefecture on top of various valuable resources and treasures. Jian Wushuang smiled lightly. Jian Wushuang definitely gained a huge wealth as 29,000 primordial stones equated to 290 million drops of ancient god divine power. Adding up the rest of the resources and treasures, the value was much higher than the 29,000 primordial stones. In other words, The resources accumulated by the demonic moon prefecture over the years were valued at more than 80,000 primordial stones. 80,000! It was a frighteningly high number. This is just the wealth from one of the 18 prefectures. Imagine if we obtained all the wealth from those 18 prefectures. Although these 18 prefectures are great, they are still a far cry from affluent families in the northern Darkstar continent, just like your Shao clan at its peak. Jian Wushuang glanced at Xiao Tiexin beside him. The Shao clan, where Xiao Tiexin came from, was one of the biggest clans in the northern Darkstar continent at its peak. Their influence was only second to the northern Darkstar territorial lord. For Xiao Tiexin to receive a total of 6,000 primordial stones just from her mother's collection, the entire wealth accumulation by the Shao clan must be of a startling amount. Tiexin, these 6,000 primordial stones yours. Jian Wushuang took out 6,000 primordial stones and returned them to Xiao Tiexin. Xiao Tiexin gladly accepted it. She knew Jian Wushuang had just made a fortune after destroying the demonic moon prefecture, so 6,000 primordial stones were nothing to him. Mr. Jian I'm sure news of the fallen of demonic moon prefectures will spread throughout Dark Thunder territory. The 17 other prefectures will definitely soon receive news of this. Though the 18 prefectures are always competing against each other, they are united against a common enemy. I'm sure the other 17 prefectures will come after to kill you soon. We better leave the Dark Thunder territory now, suggested Xiao Tiexin. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. No, don't worry about it. The demonic moon prefecture has just been destroyed. It takes time for the other prefectures to react after getting the news. We can take advantage of this time to accumulate more wealth. Accumulate more wealth. Xiao Tiexin was startled as she looked at Jian Wushuang in astonishment. Mr. Jian, are you thinking of extirpating the other prefectures too? Jian Wushuang smiled. Haha, smart. My plan isn't as simple as merely wiping out the demonic moon prefecture. Now that I've already done something to one of the 18 prefectures, I don't mind doing it on another one. Why don't I seize this opportunity to exterminate a few more prefectures and reap more benefits? Xiao Tiexin was in a daze before she said, Mr. Jian, you are talking about the 18 prefectures. They are no ordinary small fries. Each of them has a formidable background and is extremely powerful. The demonic moon prefecture is ranked rock bottom among the 18 prefectures. You are definitely powerful to be able to destroy it, but you should just stop right here. Demonic moon prefecture ranked rock bottom among the 18 prefectures. Jian Wushuang was slightly surprised, but immediately cracked a smile. Tiexin, your Shuya escort team often roams the Dark Thunder territory. You should know the 18 prefectures much better than me. We are now in the central area. Can you tell me which prefecture is closest to the demonic moon prefecture? Heaven Poison Prefecture. Xiao Tiexin said. Then let's go to the Heaven Poison Prefecture. We can talk more on our way there, said Jian Wushuang with a smile. Chapter 25-24. 9,000 primordial stones. Xiao Tiexin knew the 18 prefectures well and also had informed Jian Wushuang on each of the 18 prefectures' strengths. After listening to Xiao Tiexin, Jian Wushuang had to admit the 18 prefectures were indeed very strong. The 18 prefectures were equivalent to 18 powerhouses, with each of them being extremely powerful and had at least one high-level ultimate god. The demonic moon prefecture had one high-level ultimate god and 8 primary-level ultimate gods, which was a strong lineup, but was still ranked lowest among the 18 prefectures. The other prefectures had 2 to 3 high-level ultimate gods and more than 10 primary-level ultimate gods. They were definitely much stronger than demonic moon prefecture. Besides that, the three strongest prefectures among all were each headed by a peak ultimate god. Individually, each of them might not be a big deal, but if those 18 prefectures united as one, there will be nearly 200 ultimate gods, 20 to 30 high-level ultimate gods, and 3 peak ultimate gods. No wonder, despite their despicable reputation, they were able to stand strong in the Dark Thunder territory for so many years. They will be fine on their own as long as they aren't stupid enough to offend the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord or any other top clans from Northern Darkstar territory. Even the Shao clan, at its peak, dared not mess with the 18 prefectures. Jian Wushuang sighed. However, he did not care too much in his heart. He was not afraid of the 18 prefectures, even though many powerful clans in Northern Darkstar territory preferred to stay out of the 18 prefectures' way. His opponent could not do much against him as long as he was careful not to expose his identity. He was currently a lone ranger with both his parents, Xue Bing and Xue Peng, being far away in the Wuxia wilderness after all. He had nothing to fear. Usually, lone experts were the leaders in many forces. Mr. Jian Yi, the Heaven Poison Prefecture's nest, is right in front. Xiao Qiexin abruptly stopped. Jian Wushuang raised his head. He could sense noises and movements in front of him from where the nest apparently was. The Heaven Poison Prefecture is ranked at the bottom of the 18 prefectures, just like the Demonic Moon Prefecture. There's only one high-level ultimate god, but 10 primary-level ultimate gods, Jian Wushuang murmured. That was the entire message he obtained from Xiao Qiexin regarding them. Mr. Jian Yi, are you really going to do something against the Heaven Poison Prefecture? Xiao Qiexin furrowed her brows tightly. You don't need to be with me this time. Just wait outside. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. His figure soon advanced toward Heaven Poison Prefecture. Rumbling, heaven and earth shook as the golden divine power ocean once again swept out. In just a split moment, a huge golden prison appeared. The golden prison had completely enshrouded the Heaven Poison Prefecture. Xiao Qiexin quietly stood waiting in the void, not far from the golden prison. Although she could not see what happened in the golden prison, Xiao Qiexin could guess it and even imagine the scene of Jian Wushuang killing mercilessly in the golden prison. She knew the Heaven Poison Prefecture was about to end with Jian Wushuang had also completely offended the 18 prefectures. As expected, the golden prison faded away, and Jian Wushuang slowly stepped out. The once boisterous Heaven Poison Prefectures had also fallen into dead silence, with no more noises coming from it in the future. Xiao Qiexin let out a sigh and silently shook her head. She never thought that Jian Wushuang was too cruel or harsh. After all, Jian Wushuang was doing the world some good by extirpating these bandits. Those extremely cruel bandits looted cultivators who happened to be around the area and should have long been killed. She was just feeling a little emotional and shocked at the course of events. Heaven Poison Prefecture is now destroyed. What's next? Xiao Qiexin asked. Underworld Prefecture, said Jian Wushuang resolutely. Xiao Qiexin raised her brows and guided Jian Wushuang. The 18 prefectures were located in the central area of Dark Thunder territory. They were rather close to each other, with the furthest being only a few days away. Jian Wushuang first went to the Demonic Moon Prefecture, followed by Heaven Poison Prefecture, and Underworld Prefecture under Xiao Taixin's guidance. It took less than 10 days for him to completely destroy those 3 prefectures. 3 out of the 18 prefectures were wiped out in less than 10 days. The entire Dark Thunder territory was in an uproar after news got out. On an ordinary-looking glade, Xiao Qiexin laid out the interspatial rings in front of them and carefully counted. She finally announced, after a long time, I've carefully listed them out for you. In addition, I've also made a rough valuation. These resources and treasures in the interspatial rings are valued at around 170,000 primordial stones. It might be a bit more then, but not by a lot. 170,000. Are you so sure? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Of course, I've been helping in our clan's largest store before the Shao clan was exterminated. I know around 99% of those resources and treasures in these interspatial rings along with their market values. It's not bad to have accumulated 170,000, said Xiao Tiexin. Jian Wushuang nodded. Indeed, 170,000 primordial stones was a huge amount of money. Not even prominent clans in the northern Darkstar territory would take that amount lightly. Jian Wushuang had gained so much after destroying the Demonic Moon Prefecture, Heaven Poison Prefecture, and Underworld Prefecture. It was the wealth accumulated by 3 prefectures over a span of many years. Don't be too happy that you have these valuable resources and treasures. If you take these and sell them at the shops, I doubt there are any shops in the northern Darkstar territory which are able to produce that many primordial stones at once. Even if there are shops which could and are willing to do it, you might be targeted once you leave. Such a huge amount of primordial stones would be tempting to any clans or sects, said Xiao Tiexin. Jian Wushuang said, I understand. I'll put these resources and treasures in the interspatial rings for the time being. Once I have the chance, or I'm powerful enough, I'll exchange them for primordial stones. At this point in time, I've collected nearly 90,000 primordial stones, which will last me for some time. Apart from the various resources and treasures worth 170,000 primordial stones, he had collected nearly 96,000 primordial stones after annihilating the 3 prefectures. After returning 6,000 to Xiao Tiexin, he had about 90,000 primordial stones remaining. At Jian Wushuang's stone refinement speed, it would take approximately 1 month to use all of it. After careful consideration, Jian Wushuang doubted whether he could even progress to peak divine demon realm after refining those primordial stones. Chapter 25:25. Furious earlier, when he was breaking through from the second-class divine demon to the first-class divine demon, Jian Wushuang used almost 10,000 primordial stones and the entire divine power ocean in Saint's Tomb. At that time, he had reached a certain level in second-class divine demon, and he had also been cultivating to improve his divine power. All in all, he probably needed 20,000 primordial stones to make a breakthrough from second-class to first-class divine demon. Hence, if he wanted to make a breakthrough from first-class divine demon to peak divine demon, he would need multiple times more divine power. Jian Wushuang estimated he would need at least 100,000 primordial stones to make a breakthrough to the next level. Hence, having only around 90,000 primordial stones were not sufficient, unless he would destroy another prefecture. However, Jian Wushuang shook that thought off his mind. Can't do this anymore, murmured Jian Wushuang. He knew his successes in destroying the Demonic Moon Prefecture, Heaven Poison Prefecture, and Underworld Prefecture were because of 2 main reasons. First of all, those 3 prefectures were the weakest in strength among the 18 prefectures, as they were ranked the bottom 3. Not only were their combat prowess much weaker than other prefectures, but so were their techniques. The formations protecting and shielding their prefectures were so weak that Jian Wushuang could easily annihilate those formations just by relying on the prison of punishment. On the other hand, the other prefectures were different, as they had stronger combat powers and more advanced techniques. It would not be as easy for Jian Wushuang to handle them. Secondly, he was able to succeed one after another because of his fast pace while not allowing time for the prefectures to react and plan their counterattacks. 10 days had passed since he started with the first prefecture and ended with the third. The other prefectures would have gotten news by now, and came up with strategies to protect themselves. Jian Wushuang guessed the remaining 15 prefectures were probably boiling in rage and were already discussing how to deal with him should he seek them out. Under such circumstances, it was unlikely for him to succeed in destroying another prefecture. He could not stay in the dark thunder territory any longer as well. Tixin, let's go, said Jian Wushuang. Just as Jian Wushuang had anticipated, his deeds in the past 10 days spread like wildfire and caused a huge sensation in the entire dark thunder territory. The remaining 15 prefectures were furious. Those 18 prefectures had internal conflicts and struggles, but they had always been united against any outsiders that were against any of them. The other 15 prefectures had reacted immediately upon the destruction of those three. In a magnificent palace, many experts from those 15 prefectures had gathered. Although not all of them were their prefecture's governor, all of them were powerful ultimate gods. I've already figured out the culprit. It's this golden-robed man with a sword who did that to Demonic Moon Prefecture, Heaven Poison Prefecture, and Underworld Prefecture, said a purple-clothed old man. Despite Jian Wushuang performing the prison of punishment technique to prevent bandits from escaping, that technique could not prevent those bandits from communicating with others through sending messages. Therefore, information about Jian Wushuang's appearance, characteristics, strength, and skills had been leaked. This golden-robed man is good with the sword on top of having a profound understanding of space-time law, which he can produce 11 apparitions at the same time. His command of the space-time law is no less than a peak divine demon's, and he's extremely clever with his techniques. Though his combat prowess is only at the primary level ultimate god, he's able to kill high-level ultimate gods. When he attacked the three prefectures, he first created a golden prison, which prevented those experts from escaping before performing domain techniques to suppress those trapped experts before killing them directly. There were many experts in the three prefectures with nearly 30 primary-level ultimate gods and 3 high-level ultimate gods, but all of them were killed. The problem is we don't even know the golden-robed man's origins. We don't even know his name. We only know he appeared along with the Shuya escort team. According to our intelligence, the Shuya escort team has already left the central area. The purple-clothed old man frowned. Humph, it doesn't matter what's his origin or whether he's with the Shuya escort team. We must not allow him to leave the Dark Thunder territory alive, since he launched an attack on our 18 prefectures and wiped out 3 prefectures in one go. Otherwise, how will the 18, no, 15 prefectures show ourselves to the world? From now on, those clans in northern Darkstar territory will think we are weak and they can bully us, commented a burly middle-aged man. Yes, whoever attacks us must die. According to our intelligence, although this golden-robed man can destroy 3 prefectures with his own powers, he mainly relied on his golden prison, which prevents experts from escaping. As for his true combat strength, he's actually only at the high-level ultimate god. There are many of us amongst the 15 prefectures that can kill him. Inside the palace, the faces of the experts were stern and somber, with their eyes flashing in anger. At that instant, a red-haired woman suddenly looked up and said in a deep voice, "There's news. I just got news from my subordinates about the golden-robed man. He's currently around Firmament Mountains while someone is keeping an eye on him." Firmament Mountains? The purple-clothed old man seated in the higher position had a grim look. The Infernal Heart Prefecture, one of the top 3 prefectures, was not far away. Send a message immediately to the governor of Infernal Heart Prefecture and ask him to take action and kill the golden-robed man. Besides, the Bloodlight Prefecture is closest to Firmament Mountains. The Luo brothers of Bloodlight Prefecture are very powerful. They might not be able to kill the golden-robed man, but it shouldn't be a problem to stop him. Send both of them a message. As well, so that they can take action as soon as possible. No matter what's the price, the golden-robed man must be killed. The experts in the palace had strong murderous intent. Firmament Mountains was an ordinary mountain in the center of the dark Thunder Territory. Jian Wushuang did not know the mountain's name. He was soaring above the Firmament Mountains alone. He was not moving fast, nor did he hide. In short, he was just swaggering in the void. He was also using a message token to communicate with Xiao Tiexin while moving about. "Tiexin, how are you doing with your escort team?" Jian Wushuang asked. "We'll be able to leave the central area soon. There are bandits who often drop by to spy on us, but they didn't stay for too long," said Xiao Tiexin. "That's normal. I think they have their eyes on me now, and will probably not pay much attention to you," said Jian Wushuang with a smile. Chapter 25-26. In for the kill not long ago, Jian Wushuang parted ways with Xiao Tiexin, who then joined a Crimson-class escort team which she had encountered and left the central area with those escorts. The 15 prefectures were keeping an eye on him while Jian Wushuang swaggered and appeared around Firmament Mountains, hence Xiao Tiexin could safely leave. "Mr. Jian, you should quickly go. The remaining 15 prefectures aren't that easy to handle," said Xiao Tiexin. "I know, but it's not easy to leave. They have already marked me, and probably won't let me leave this central area," said Jian Wushuang. "What can I do?" Xiao Tiexin asked. "It's okay. I have my own ways to deal with it. You can find a place to stop and wait for me after getting out of the central area. I'll find you soon," said Jian Wushuang casually. "Okay." Xiao Tiexin nodded. Jian Wushuang ended the communication, and his eyes darted around and scanned the area. His soul powers had sensed many bandits in the void surrounding him. Those bandits were probably there mainly to keep an eye and prevent him from escaping, as they were not sufficiently powerful to fight against him. Jian Wushuang estimated it would not be long before someone from the 15 prefectures appeared to kill him. The 15 prefectures have many powerful experts, but they are scattered in different corners. It's impossible to unite their high-level forces to kill me in a short period. I wonder which prefecture will come for me first. Jian Wushuang mumbled to himself and looked forward to it. Half an hour passed by very quickly. Jian Wushuang was still sauntering around Firmament Mountains. Suddenly, more than 10 tyrannical auras appeared out of thin air within the range of his soul power. "Have they arrived?" Jian Wushuang raised his head and looked at the nearby void where more than a dozen black spots had appeared. In just moments, those dozens of black spots appeared in front of him. The weakest among them were exuding an ultimate god's aura as they stood before Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang ignored the primary-level ultimate gods and looked at those two people in the center. The divine powers emanating from both of them had reached the high-level ultimate god and were very powerful, at least much stronger than demonic moon prefecture governor, and even stronger than Great Compassion Sect's Yun Zhen. Besides, apart from both of them having similar divine powers, even their faces were identical. Both of them were burly and sturdy, with cold, stern faces. Each was also carrying a gigantic axe behind them. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and figured those two's identity. Twin brothers? Seems like they are the Luo brothers from Bloodlight Prefecture. Jian Wushuang heard Xiao Tiexin talking about the strength of various prefectures, as well as some of their powerful experts. The Luo brothers were quite famous among the 18 prefectures in Dark Thunder Territory. They were only slightly weaker than the 3 peak ultimate gods of those 3 top-ranked prefectures. The Luo brothers were indeed twin brothers, with both of them having cultivated and acted together since young. They had progressed simultaneously in strength and were equally talented. Both of them were close to being peak ultimate gods, and their combat prowess were extremely powerful. It was still fine to fight against one of them, but when the two joined forces, their combat power would skyrocket. According to Xiao Tiexin, both brothers worked extremely well together and had even developed powerful fusion attack techniques to complement each other. The two of them joined forces to double up their strength, such that even those very high-ranking ultimate gods would avoid confronting them together. Golden-robed youth, you continuously wiped out Demonic Moon Prefecture, Heaven Poison Prefecture, and Underworld Prefecture. You have completely disregarded the 18 prefectures. We'll kill you today, roared the older brother, Luo Hai. You can't just use lip service to kill me, Jian Wushuang sneered. Of course, we'll crush you with our powers. Luo Hai's face was cold. Brother, let's attack. Okay. The younger brother, Luo Bao, nodded. The two brothers had a tacit understanding and fired their shots almost at the same time. They were extremely violent and drew the big axes on their backs, which were swinging around in accordance with their bodies. The giant axe in Luo Shan's hands was heavy and forbidding like a giant mountain as it went crashing down on Jian Wushuang with its almighty strength. Whoosh! The second brother, Luo Hai, waved his big axe that caused ripples to immediately spread out. It gave one the impression as if they were plunged into the sea waves and repeatedly being hit by the ripples. The two brothers might be equal in strength, but their laws and axe skills are completely different. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. He had also moved along and transformed into 11 apparitions. His terrifying speed had saved him from Luo Shan's powerful axe strike. Swoosh! As his blood mountain sword flicked. A cold sword light seemed to tear apart everything in the world. The sword light tore apart Luo Hai's axe, rippled before shooting toward Luo Hai. Luo Hai let out a cold snort before discharging an infinite amount of divine power, like a giant wave in the middle of the sea. Multiple waves were sent out by his axe's swinging motions, which all of them were aimed at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang used his samsara-driven swordlights to repeatedly crush those waves. However, there were even more waves coming his way. On the other side, heaven and earth violently shook as Luo Shan charged at Jian Wushuang with an axe at hand. His movements were intense, as if the heaven were being slashed apart. These two brothers are really strong. Jian Wushuang exclaimed as the stellar strength in his body started to surge. Buzz. Majestic divine powers began condensing behind Jian Wushuang. It was the early signs of him forming his 1,000-feet-tall golden god shadow. The golden god shadow was towering over the earth with its height as divine powers in Jian Wushuang's body continued to build up. He simultaneously performed the 7 stars secret technique and divine god of punishment. Get lost! Along with his stern shout, the blood mountain sword's power soared while his eyes were filled with a burning hatred. Hate, hate, hate. The feeling of hatred filled the entire world. Transmigration sword skill. 3rd form. Hateful path toward heaven. Boom. Heaven-shattering sword intense swept across and smashed into the endless waves ahead. The axe which Luo Shan was waving around had also been frontally repelled. The two Luo brothers' bodies were sent retreating backwards. Big brother, he's very strong. Let's use our fusion attack techniques, said Luo Hai in a low voice. Yeah. Luo Shan also solemnly nodded. The very next moment, a glimmer of light was shining from both of them. Chapter 25-27. Fusion Attack Techniques. The glimmer of light was an extremely unique secret technique. The two brothers then moved at the same time and simultaneously waved the giant axes in their hands. Wow. Wow. 2 axe shadows, one domineering and the other extremely sturdy as they shot out at the same time before completely integrated into one in an instant. Heavenly beasts descent. The two Luo brothers snorted as the glimmering lights on their bodies completely merged. Roar. A loud roar resounded abruptly under the fusion of both axe shadows. A ferocious wild beast descended from above. The wild beast carried terrifying powers and attacked Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's eyes sank. The divine power in him erupted before swinging across the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. Hate, hate, hate. It's still the technique, hateful path toward heaven, embarking on an infinite hateful path. Boom. There was a loud noise as the beast which came out from the axe shadows was slashed and thrown back. It went rolling backward with an obvious decrease of divine powers. Again, Luo Shan's voice was cold. A million changes, a million beasts' evolution. Rumbling. More lights were injected into the wild beast. After the wild beast stood firm on its feet, its momentum was rebuilt once again before charging forward and suddenly splitting into multiple beasts. In the blink of an eye, there were dozens of fierce beasts. Those fierce beasts were extremely powerful and went right after Jian Wushuang as soon as it took shape. A terrifying evil spirit filled the entire void, which completely surrounded Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang scoffed as 11 apparitions were concurrently produced and slipped in between the wild beasts. Thereafter, there were a series of strange and bewitching sword lights illuminating among the beasts. Every sword light could easily kill a primary-level ultimate god. With just a momentary effort, Jian Wushuang's figure retreated back to the original place as dozens of fierce beasts had already been swept away by the sword lights. Any other techniques? Jian Wushuang stood there with his sword at hand, looking condescendingly at Luo Shan and Luo Hai. The two brothers' faces turned ugly. Both of them were very powerful high-level ultimate gods, and were very close to being a peak high-level ultimate god. When they worked together to perform the combined attack, even the top high-level ultimate god experts would shun them. However, Jian Wushuang had parried off their fusion attack techniques head-on. "Brother, use the ultimate trick." Luo Shan said coldly. "All right." Luo Hai nodded solemnly. In an instant, the light glimmer appeared on them both again and condensed in the void ahead. Both of them shouted at the same time, impersonation of a beast, devil's descent. Boom! Heaven and earth shook as infinite light gathered before the two brothers. In the blink of an eye, 100 feet tall devil appeared out of thin air from the gleaming light. The devil held a giant axe in his hand with its eyes emitting cold lights. "Kill!" Luo Shan shrieked. The 100-foot-tall devil stepped out and held a giant axe with both of its hands before swinging it downward. The axe had changed the colors of heaven, earth, and space-time. The void shuddered. Jian Wushuang stood in front of the devil, with his eyes focusing on the axe, which the devil wielded. The golden god shadow behind him was surging with divine powers, and the infinite ocean of golden divine powers erupted. Jian Wushuang shook his hands firmly, and the Blood Mountain sword turned into a long snake. Swash! The void was torn apart like pieces of paper, with everything turning into nothingness. No sound, no wind, no shadow. The sword shadow was the only thing that swept around. Space-time sword technique. Third form, pure shadow. Boom! There was a loud noise, and the sky shattered while the entire grounds trembled frantically. The two brothers had already retreated to the void behind them as both Luo Shan and Luo Hai coldly stared at the void at the front. The divine powers that had flooded the void slowly dissipated before the appearance of a powerful sword intent which completely annihilated the collision aftermath's reverberation. Once again, Jian Wushuang appeared in front of the two brothers. Did this golden-robed kid actually ward off our strongest move? Luo Shan gritted his teeth tightly. His divine power's breath is still full. It seems he has not suffered any harm. Luo Hai added. The two brothers exchanged looks as a thought entered their minds at the same time. They knew it was impossible to kill the golden-robed man before them with just the two of them. Fortunately, our mission isn't to kill but to keep him occupied and not allow him to escape, said Luo Hai. Well, the governor of Infernal Heart Prefecture should be here soon, said Luo Shan. Several shadows appeared in the distant void while the two were conversing. Those shadows were moving extremely fast and appeared on the battlefield in the blink of an eye. There were only 5 people. Among the 5 were 4 high-level ultimate gods, and a thin black-haired young man standing in the center who was emitting a phantom-like aura. The aura of the black-haired man was obviously stronger than anyone present, and his aura had already surpassed the high-level ultimate god rank. He was a peak ultimate god. The phantom-like black-haired young man was also a governor of the top 3 prefectures in the Dark Thunder territory, governor of Infernal Heart Prefecture. Is he a peak ultimate god? Jian Wushuang stealthily glanced at the phantom-like black-haired young man with his narrowed eyes. A peak ultimate god, a top ultimate god, who was just one step away from being an Earth ultimate god. Peak ultimate gods were considered super experts in both Dark Thunder territory and Northern Darkstar territory. In many Northern Darkstar territories' prominent families, peak ultimate gods were clan heads. The only one known to have power above peak ultimate god in the entire Northern Darkstar territory was the territorial lord. A peak ultimate god had appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang licked his lips but was still unflustered. On the contrary, his expectations were building up. Governor, you're finally here. Luo Shan and Luo Hai both turned their heads to the phantom-like black-haired young man. The phantom-like black-haired young man was the governor of Infernal Heart Prefecture. He first glanced at Jian Wushuang before looking at the Luo brothers. Are you 2 brothers unable to get him? It's a pity. This golden-robed kid is much stronger than we thought. We've joined forces by performing our fusion attack techniques and displaying our strongest moves. Unfortunately, we aren't able to subdue him, not to mention kill him, said Luo Shan. Chapter 25-28. Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor. Oh! The Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor was a little surprised. He knew about the Luo brothers' abilities with their almost peerless joint attack techniques among high-level ultimate gods. However, their opponent did not even budget. The governor looked at Jian Wushuang and mysteriously smiled. Golden-robed kid, I hear you're a swordsman. What coincidence. So, am I? The governor flipped his wrist as soon as he spoke, and a long black sword which was glowing in a faint light appeared in his hand. The black sword projected a gloomy cold aura with a touch of evil. Let's find out who's more skillful. Jian Wushuang appeared calm, with an undercurrent of excitement. He would have done so long ago if he wanted to leave, but he was not in a hurry as he wanted to cross hands with the 18 prefecture's top cultivators. His wait for a peak ultimate god was finally over. I wonder how large is the gap between a peak ultimate god and me at my current level. Jian Wushuang murmured. In the next moment, broom, an infinite golden divine power ocean began gushing out before covering heaven and earth. The void was shrouded in the blink of an eye as a huge golden prison was formed out of thin air. At the same time, an expanding golden divine power had formed an enormous domain that directly pressed against the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor. The governor was still standing at the same spot when he felt the domain's pressure. He was slightly surprised, but immediately calmed down. Is this the golden prison, which you unleashed to annihilate those 3 prefectures? Rather powerful. Huh? The governor looked around him. Such a sturdy prison is perhaps difficult to break, even for a high-level ultimate god. No wonder none of the 3 prefectures' experts could escape. Moreover, it has a domain within. What a pity that this domain within the prison is only a joke for me. It'll show you what real oppression is. As soon as his voice faded, the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor's eyes turned cold. With ringing noises, a terrifying sword essence suddenly surged upward from the governor's body. It was such a strong sword essence. It was strong enough to make both regular and high-level ultimate gods stunned. Even Jian Wushuang felt a sense of fear the moment he noticed the sword essence. The sweeping sword essence immediately and completely materialized before continuing its motion toward every direction. The golden divine power ocean began to retreat under the sword essences. In the blink of an eye, the sword essence had completely covered heaven and earth, forming an immense and complete sword world. The powerful sword essence filled every corner of that world. The Infernal Heart Prefecture governor was at the centermost region of that world. He was the ruler of sword principles in that world. Jian Wushuang experienced an unprecedented great shock physically and mentally when that enormous sword world was formed. The shock directly affected his sword technique, even had greatly decreased the gathering speed of his sword essences. He felt like a child who just started learning sword techniques and fighting against the world's best swordsman. Sword world. This is a real sword world. Jian Wushuang slightly shuddered. The first stage of sword principles, sword world. As soon as one stepped into this stage, one had entered a new level in sword principles. However, it was incredibly hard to reach that stage. Jian Wushuang did cross hands with Fan Jianxian while in Wusha Wilderness, who had also unleashed a sword world, but it was only a frame of a sword world, an empty shell with no substance, and did not help to develop his sword world at all. Even then, Fan Jianxian's empty shell still indeed caused a slight bit of shock to Jian Wushuang during the battle. Jian Wushuang was greatly shocked when he felt those heaven-shattering sword essences sweeping in from all directions. He immediately understood that the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor before him was a true sword expert who had opened up his sword world. The sword world which he displayed was a complete one and felt entirely different from Fan Jianxian's. It's a complete sword world. What a strange and unique feeling. Jian Wushuang was paying detailed attention to the sword essence around him. He could personally feel the sword world that surrounded him. His understanding of sword principles had reached the completion stage, with his next objective was to form his sword world. However, even though he had received Purple Blood Saint's understanding on top of knowing a sword world structure, it was not enough to develop one on his own. It would be best if he could personally feel the sword world. Jian Wushuang had always wished to cross paths with a sword expert who had developed his sword world, and today's encounter was an unexpected and pleasant surprise. My luck's rather good. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining with excitement as battle intent began surging within him. The governor took action at that same moment. He had casually arrived right in front of Jian Wushuang as a gloomy and evil cold black sword stabbed outward horizontally. It produced violent wind noises, as though the void was pierced through and exploded. The stroke itself did not seem to unleash an overly powerful momentum, but Jian Wushuang could tell it was done by focusing and suddenly erupting infinite sword essences at a single point. The instant explosion sent out terrifying energy waves. Humph! Jian Wushuang humphed coldly and dared not be careless. Divine powers were surging violently from his body as the 3,000-meter-tall golden god shadow behind him was also projecting infinite powers. Ring! A sword light appeared out of the blue. The sword light was incredibly attractive and bright as though it could connect heaven and earth. It became the focal center of heaven and earth the moment it appeared. It even became an eternity, space-time sword technique, heaven and earth aligned. However, Jian Wushuang's pupils dilated the moment his sword light appeared. How's that possible? The energy of my stroke had weakened so much? Jian Wushuang was extremely shocked. He had been under the sword world's oppression from the beginning. His gathering of sword essences and the divine powers had been greatly affected by it. He had already given his all into that stroke, but the energy it projected was only at most half of what he could have performed in his peak. How could an attack at half of his power be able to fend off Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor's explosion attack? Twang! The noises of metal collisions resonated along with the governor's immediate explosive strike, which Jian Wushuang felt was 10 times stronger than a regular ultimate god's. He could not withstand it at all. Boom! His body got blown out extremely far away and hit the wall of the golden prison. Chapter 25-29, Crushed Whoosh. Jian Wushuang struggled out of the golden prison's wall and once again appeared before Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor. Power, truly powerful. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining with excitement. His abilities had been shockingly decreased by 50% from the Sword World's effects. Moreover, the governor's battle strength was also horrifyingly powerful. Any casual stroke he unleashed was 10 times more powerful than regular high-level ultimate god. An expert such as that. Looks like I have underestimated the gap between a high-level and peak ultimate god, but I won't miss a chance to personally experience his sword world in detail. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly as his body suddenly trembled. Ring! Infinite golden lights violently surged and radically gathered in the form of a blinding golden light right outside of his golden robe before shrouding his entire body. A shiny golden armor surrounded Jian Wushuang's body in the blink of an eye, one of Jian Wushuang's secret techniques. 9 Sparkle Star armor was finally unleashed. It was also the debut of his cultivated life armor after its upgrade. Show me exactly how strong an expert owning a sword world is. A piercing light shone through Jian Wushuang's eyes. Whoosh! All 11 apparitions were projected at the same time. 12 Jian Wushuangs appeared out of nowhere in the void, with each of them shrouded in golden armors which shone and made their appearance seemingly like golden demonic deities. The 12 Jian Wushuangs moved with terrifying speed in the void. 11 apparitions. Does he have such a high understanding of space-time law? The Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor looked at those golden figures and drew his sword sideways with only one hand. Clank, clank, clank. Infinite sword essences suddenly solidified and became tiny little sword shadows that hurled toward those golden figures coming from every direction. The sword shadows went right through each of those golden figures except one which made physical contact with them. Right there, the governor's figure appeared before Jian Wushuang's physical body with a flash and lashed out his black sword. He struck like a venomous snake, directly aiming for Jian Wushuang's throat. As he attacked, an enormous sword essence pressed against Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang looked aloof as he swung his long sword, which seemed to tear open the void before him and formed a sword river. That sword river seemed to separate the two of them, making them confront each other on either side. Both sword techniques exploded into action right after. With consecutive wind noises, multiple traces of cold and mysterious sword lights lashed out one after another. The sword lights were incredibly fast, vicious, and the momentum contained therein were horrifying. The crux was the huge number of sword lights. The infinite sword lights were so dense that they completely shrouded Jian Wushuang in just a very short time. Jian Wushuang was trying his hardest to withstand them, but was shocked by the sword world, which greatly impacted his abilities, and especially his sword techniques. Even though he had 9 sparkle star armor, which caused each of his strokes to be 3 times more powerful, and placing himself not far behind in terms of momentum, but in terms of sword techniques. His sword techniques are just too fast. If I'm not affected by his sword world, I could rely on my space-time law understanding to resist him. However, I can't even catch up to his speed at this moment, let alone resisting him. Jian Wushuang's expression became extremely troubled. He was gradually losing to Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor's oppression, despite giving his all. This is it. Jian Wushuang made a shocking realization. The governor's pupils suddenly dilated before saying, "Golden-robed kid, go to hell." Ring. A flash of evil and cold sword light slid by Blood Mountain Sword's edge and aimed directly toward Jian Wushuang's head. The sword's freezing tip stabbed between Jian Wushuang's eyebrows. Jian Wushuang had the 9 sparkle star armor shrouding over his body. It was an important defense, hence it also protected that area. However, the armor fell apart as it made contact with the sword tip, which continued to stab inward. Clank! The sound of metals making contact was heard, which was even accompanied by a flickering golden flame. Another layer of battle armor? The Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor looked over and realized Jian Wushuang was not only shrouded with shiny golden armor, but the golden robe, which he had been wearing, also turned into a sophisticated and beautiful golden armor that covered his entire body. It was Jian Wushuang's life armor, golden glazed life armor. One must know Jian Wushuang's cultivation of the 9 sparkle star armor technique was meant for both offense and defense. It would fuse with the life armor and form a second layer of golden armor to defend the user's body. In other words, he was being protected by 2 layers of defense armor. The Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor's sword tip shattered the 9 sparkle star armor, which formed with the accumulation of divine powers, but it would not be able to harm the golden glazed life armor. The most it could do was to transmit its impact energy into Jian Wushuang's body through the golden glazed life armor. However, going through 2 layers of armors meant the remaining momentum bits were already very weak and could not even hurt Jian Wushuang a bit. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang and the governor moved away from each other. "Golden-robed kid, your Bodis defense ability is not too bad," said the Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor. "Thanks for the compliments." Jian Wushuang did not deflect the praise, nor did he show any arrogance. "Humph." The governor suddenly harumphed coldly before immediately stepping out. It looked like a simple and extremely casual step, but was an incredibly huge step in truth. It was amazingly fast to the extent of being almost like teleportation. The Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor had already appeared less than a meter from Jian Wushuang. What? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Right after that, the black sword in the governor's hand projected waves of dark light, and the governor's face looked extremely stern. "Dark sword, God kill." The Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor lightly recited those words as the black sword's tip once again pointed toward Jian Wushuang without any obstructions in between. The cold and gloomy black sword tip formed strange dark waves as it moved through the void. Those dark waves seemed to have formed a huge swirl. Jian Wushuang had no time to react against that attack at all, and neither was there a way for him to fend it off. He could only watch as it made contact with his body. Boom! The sword tip contained an incredible amount of impact, and killing momentum instantly exploded on Jian Wushuang's body. Jian Wushuang flew like a cannonball and once again knocked against the Golden Prison's wall. It even formed a huge hole in the Golden Prison's wall at that time, with a huge momentum, and sword essences rippled outward from the hole. Is he dead? Luo Shan, Luo Hai, and the ultimate gods who were also within the golden prison attentively gazed. Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor stood coldly in the void with his suffocating aura projected from his body. He also looked ahead but began to frown. Chapter 25:30. Full retreat Jian Wushuang once again struggled out of the cracks under everyone's scrutiny and appeared in front of the Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor. The governor of Infernal Heart Prefecture is truly a premier of the 18 prefectures' 3 great ultimate gods. I'm impressed, Jian Wushuang said with a bright voice. According to Xiao Tiexin, the Infernal Heart Prefecture's governor was the best among the 18 prefectures' 3 great ultimate gods. It was indeed true based on his observation. Even among peak ultimate gods, there were very few who could open up their world after all. Most of them had to become an Earth ultimate god before they could do so, but the governor had already achieved so. That strike just now was my most powerful sword strike. It should have killed you, or at least severely injured you, when it struck your body head-on. But you're completely fine. It's impossible unless you practice certain extremely powerful protective secret techniques, or your golden armor is a heavenly treasure. The governor sternly stared at Jian Wushuang. At this moment, he was 90% sure Jian Wushuang's armor was not only a heavenly treasure, but also extremely high-leveled. Otherwise, Jian Wushuang could not remain unscathed under his most powerful strike. A heavenly treasure armor. The governor's eyes were shining with a touch of greed. Artifacts were categorized into 3 categories: mystical treasures, earthly treasures, and heavenly treasures. Among them, earthly treasures were already considered very good, as most regular ultimate gods only used pinnacle earthly treasures. Those among peak ultimate gods who could afford to use heavenly treasure weapons were very rare. For example, the Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor did not own a heavenly treasure. However, not only was it a piece of heavenly treasure present before him, but was also a protective armor type. Protective armors were a lot more precious than offensive mystical gear. Jian Wushuang noticed the governor's greedy eyes. His protective armor was indeed at the heavenly treasure level, but its powers were not as exaggerated as it seemed. He was injured by the strike just now, but immediately used his divine powers to recuperate without the governor's notice. I have experienced his sword world when we fought, hence there's no longer any need to continue being entangled with him. Jian Wushuang had made up his mind, as he immediately laughed and said, "Mr. Governor, thank you for the lesson today. Let's cross hands again if we get a chance in the future." Jian Wushuang's laughter was resonating between heaven and earth, but his figure had already shot all the way backward. Wishing to escape, the governor's expression turned dark as he immediately moved to chase after Jian Wushuang. After knowing that Jian Wushuang possessed a heavenly treasure armor, the governor had absolutely no intentions of letting Jian Wushuang live. Not to mention that the remaining 15 prefectures must kill him to salvage their reputations, since he had indeed annihilated 3 prefectures. Other than Infernal Heart Prefecture's governor, Luo brothers, and remaining ultimate gods also immediately chased after Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang only smiled faintly when he saw that before pointing his finger toward them. Just from pointing his finger, boom! A titanic divine power erupted like a volcano that had stayed idle for billions of years. It was incredibly overwhelming. At that instant, the divine power that swept out of Jian Wushuang's body had challenged the ultimate god's knowledge in divine powers. How's that possible? His divine power, how can it be so much? It's above earth ultimate gods, heaven ultimate gods, and grand ultimate gods. Probably even undying saints would not have such overwhelming divine powers. Terrifying noises resonated around them. the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor was also dumbfounded. Never had he imagined Jian Wushuang could suddenly project such vast and incredible divine powers. His divine powers literally formed an ocean with its infinite and ever-expanding size, which repeatedly formed giant waves and violently swept against them. They did not realize the divine power that was sweeping at them was only 30% of Jian Wushuang's total divine powers. As a perfect chaotic creature, Jian Wushuang possessed divine powers that were as vast as the ocean. He had absorbed an entire divine power ocean, after all, when he broke into second-class divine demon from third class. Now that he was a second-class divine demon, he naturally possessed even more divine powers. It was exactly due to such that he never had to worry about exhausting his divine powers during fights, and was able to ruthlessly use various tactics. At that moment, he projected 30% of his divine power all in one go. It was still terrifyingly vast despite being only merely 30%. Under violent impacts of his infinite divine powers, Infernal Heart Prefecture's governor, Luo brothers, and everyone else could not help but stop chasing and withstood the impact while watching Jian Wushuang vanish from their sights. After a while, the vast divine power ocean, which violently swept at them, had finally exhausted its momentum. The divine powers that previously filled the air had completely dissolved. The governor, Luo brothers, and the rest of them stood there feeling incredibly embarrassed. He escaped even though the one who fought him. The governor felt extremely reluctant to concede. He did not wish to give up on the opportunity to obtain Jian Wushuang's heavenly treasure armor. On the other hand, Luo brothers and the rest of them could only quietly shake their heads. From the recent battles, they could conclude that Jian Wushuang's battle strength might still be below a peak ultimate god's, but he was most definitely unrivaled among peak divine demons. Furthermore, his body protective abilities and life-saving skills were really high. The Infernal Heart Prefecture's governor was already the most powerful among 18 prefectures, but even he could only watch Jian Wushuang leave without being able to do anything for the remaining 15 prefectures. Unless they gathered all their high-level experts together, they would not be able to kill him with only a few prefectures joining hands, even with their peak ultimate gods. Let's go back for now. The prefectures need to discuss and decide on how to deal with the golden-robed kid, said Luo Shan. Aye. Luo Hai nodded, and soon everyone from Blood-Light Prefecture had left. As for Infernal Heart Prefecture's governor, there was nothing he could do despite feeling reluctant to concede, as Jian Wushuang had already left. He could only return and plan for his next steps. Experts from other prefectures immediately fell silent when they found out that even the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor could not even injure or force Jian Wushuang to stay. However, they soon began their plans on dealing with Jian Wushuang again. Of course, their plans were based on the hypothesis that Jian Wushuang would still stay within the central region and continued messing with them. However, Jian Wushuang had immediately left the central region, where those 18 prefectures gathered after his battle with the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor. Chapter 2531. Following you above a vast void in dark thunder territory. Although Jian Wushuang was slowly gliding forward, his mind kept replaying the battle with the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor. Sword World. Now, that's a real complete sword world. The kind of stunning effects against sword principles and sword-based techniques, not to forget the sword essences, which filled every corner of heaven and earth. Jian Wushuang sank into deep thoughts and only got out from his stupor after a very long time. Phew! Jian Wushuang exhaled lightly with a faint smile on his face. The battle with the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor was not victorious, but I had gained a whole lot through and through. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. The governor is truly very powerful, but he can only easily suppress me due to his sword world's stunning effects. If I'm against other peak ultimate god who has opened his own world, my sword principles won't suffer such suppression, so long it was not a sword world, and I won't end up in such a miserable state. A sword cultivator, who formed his sword world, and one who did not were two different concepts. Furthermore, a cultivator who had formed his sword world would have a bigger shock and suppression impact against other sword cultivators. If the opponent cultivated other principles such as blade principles, the effect would not be as apparent. Jian Wushuang had truly suffered a lot under the governor's sword world. I've now personally experienced his sword world. Once I've formed my own sword world and encounter the Infernal Heart Prefecture's governor again, it'll no longer be such an easy win, with both our sword worlds suppressing against each other. Jian Wushuang was really looking forward to forming his own sword world. However, he also knew forming a sword world was not something he could do as he wished. Even for him, he would need time to gradually study and understand how it works. Jian Wushuang met up with Xiao Tiexin half a day after he left the central region. Mr. Jian, did you run into any troubles along the way? Xiao Tiexin asked curiously. A little bit. I had a battle with the Luo brothers and the governor of Infernal Heart Prefecture, said Jian Wushuang. The Luo brothers? The governor of Infernal Heart Prefecture? Xiao Tiexin was shocked. It was believable that he fought the Luo brothers, but the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor was considered the #1 expert in the 18 prefectures. What is the outcome? Xiao Tiexin continued to ask. I suffered a small defeat, but they couldn't force me to stay. Jian Wushuang smiled and did not explain too much. The remaining 15 prefectures are frantically looking for me now. I don't think I can stay in this territory anymore. Let's go to Northern Darkstar Continent. MHM. Xiao Tiexin nodded. They immediately took off. Jian Wushuang and Xiao Tiexin naturally sped up upon leaving the central region for their remaining journey, as regular thieves could not pose any threats so long those 15 prefecture experts did not come after them. They arrived at the border of Dark Thunder territory a month later. Let's stop here, said Jian Wushuang. Mr. Jian, Xiao Tiexin took a glance at Jian Wushuang and now knew what he intended to do. Jian Wushuang had obtained a big amount of resources and treasures from destroying the demonic moon, heaven poison, and underworld prefectures. Close to 90,000 primordial stones, to be exact. During that whole time, Jian Wushuang did not have time to refine and absorb those primordial stones. However, at that moment, as soon as we leave Dark Thunder territory, we would be in the Northern Darkstar Continent. I should refine those primordial stones before entering the Northern Darkstar Continent. Even though it won't allow me to make further breakthroughs, an increase of divine powers will still upgrade my abilities to an extent, said Jian Wushuang. He very soon found a quiet place, sat down cross-legged, and began refining those stones. As for Xiao Tiexin, she was still assisting him as before. There were only 6,000 primordial stones last time, and Jian Wushuang needed only 2 days to finish refining them. However, there were 90,000 pieces now, and Jian Wushuang needed an entire month to refine all of them. Jian Wushuang stood up and looked at those primordial stones, which had turned into regular stone piles around him, and exclaimed, "It only took a month to finish all 90,000 of them. My absorption speed is beyond overly luxurious." The 90,000 pieces of primordial stones were the 3 prefectures of Dark Thunder territory's accumulation, and Jian Wushuang had just exhausted it like that. If others knew about it, they would probably be dead envious. Xiao Tiexin walked over at that moment. Xiao Tiexin was shocked as well upon looking at those rocks on the ground. She then asked, Mr. Jian Yi, since you have absorbed close to 90,000 primordial stones, does that mean your divine power is— Jian Wushuang laughed. It's not as simple as you think. These 90,000 primordial stones may upgrade my divine powers by a lot, but there's still a slight gap before I could make a breakthrough to the next cultivation level. A slight gap. Xiao Qiexin was shocked, as those 90,000 primordial stones were the equivalent of unfathomable divine powers, and yet Jian Wushuang still could not make a breakthrough to the next level, just a little bit. Jian Wushuang sighed. As well, his divine powers at that time could be considered at the very top of a first-class divine demon and infinitely close to the peak divine demon realm. According to Jian Wushuang's estimation, he would just have to refine another 20,000 to 30,000 primordial stones if he wished to make a breakthrough into the peak divine demon realm. That figure was not considered too big for him, who had just refined 90,000 primordial stones. The problem was that he could not find so many primordial stones at this moment. He had exhausted all of his primordial stones, and there were only a huge number of resources and treasures left which he could not refine like primordial stones. Although Xiao Qiexin still possessed 6,000 pieces of primordial stones that were not remotely enough. Forget it, he'll go to the North Darkstar continent first and think of a way there, mumbled Jian Wushuang before looking over at Xiao Qiexin. Qiexin, where are you planning to go after leaving Dark Thunder territory? Nowhere, he'll just follow you, said Xiao Qiexin straightforwardly. Following me? Jian Wushuang was shocked. I have a feeling he'll gain some benefits if I'm with you, said Xiao Qiexin. Oh, but why? Jian Wushuang asked casually. I'm not sure. Perhaps because of your terrifying abilities, talent, or advancement speed. I've never heard anyone refining primordial stones as recklessly as you do. If you could keep progressing in this manner, perhaps you would become a pinnacle existence within the Northern Darkstar continent. In the end, you could even become— Xiao Qiexin suddenly paused with a peculiar look on her face. Chapter 2532, North Darkstar Continent. Are you trying to say ill threaten the Northern Darkstar territory lord and even find ways to eliminate him to take over his position in the end and help you with your revenge at the same time? Jian Wushuang looked over at Xiao Qiexin. Yes. Xiao Qiexin solemnly nodded and immediately knelt down. Mr. Jian Yi, am willing to be your slave, servant, or concubine for the rest of my life without regrets if you could kill the Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord and avenge my family. Please get up. Jian Wushuang immediately helped her up as he could see through her eyes Xiao Taixin's deep grudge, the grudge of her clan's annihilation. Her parents, relatives, and many siblings had died in the hands of the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. It was an enormously mortal hatred. Jian Wushuang frowned and said, Qiexin, you're actually very gifted and have an incredibly strong, comprehensive mind. You'll be able to take revenge yourself with your current progress on top of having good opportunities. There's no need to become someone's slave or concubine. Xiao Qiexin smiled wryly. No, there's something you do not understand, Mr. Jian Yi. I was the only one who escaped when my clan was destroyed. Although I survived, I had to perform my family's unique secret technique during that battle to protect myself. The secret technique could radically and briefly raise my abilities at the cost of ruining my foundations. My potential has been exhausted with my damaged foundation. I'm really lucky to be able to become a low-level ultimate god, and will have an even slimmer hope of becoming a high-level or peak ultimate god. It's even more impossible for me to become an Earth ultimate god. It was because of this that when the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord found out I'm still alive, he didn't care to send people after me, as he knew that I don't pose a threat to him. He'll need to rely on other people's help to seek revenge. Is that so? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Her foundation is damaged and future potential exhausted. He clearly knew the importance of a foundation toward any cultivator. That was fundamental for all cultivators. One's foundation had to be sturdier and stronger the further one wanted to go. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to make a breakthrough in the future. It was the precise reason that so many cultivators in ancient god domain permanently remained at their particular level and were unable to make a breakthrough anymore. They lost the possibilities for further breakthroughs once their potentials were completely exhausted. In normal circumstances, not many people would do something that might damage their foundations unless under desperate situations. Xiao Qiexin was forced to use her clan's secret technique in order to survive the dire situation. However, she also exhausted her potential due to that. As a matter of fact, Jian Wushuang's method of directly ingesting divine powers to achieve cultivation breakthroughs could also affect one's foundation, but he was not afraid. First of all, his understanding of principles, laws, and many other matters in addition to his mental maturity had reached the breakthrough stages. He only lacked divine powers. The impact and effect on his foundations due to external divine power refinement and ingestion was extremely little, such that he need not have to worry about it. Secondly, he possessed a perfectly flawless foundation such that those tiny bits of effects were like ants shaking a huge tree, completely negligible. Hence, Jian Wushuang could behave so recklessly. Qiexin, I'll be honest with you. Even without you asking me, I'll seek the Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord sooner or later. I'm not just interested in his position as Territorial Lord. More importantly, he possesses the stately painting treasure taken from the Shao clan. Jian Wushuang said with a deep voice, "The stately painting? Mr. Jian Yi, are you also interested in it? Or do you mean?" Xiao Qiexin stared firmly at Jian Wushuang. She was quite shocked when Jian Wushuang mentioned the hidden information within the stately painting earlier. It was clear to her at that very moment Jian Wushuang had a strong yearning for the stately painting. "I'm not only interested in it, I'm dead set on obtaining the painting as it was originally mine from the start," Jian Wushuang said. Xiao Qiexin began to slightly frown, but soon relaxed. All she wanted then was to seek revenge, to kill the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. She could care any lesser for the stately painting. "All right, do so if you wish to follow me. I don't know much about the Northern Darkstar continent, after all, and you can fill me in on that. However, you'd better disguise yourself before we go. Although the Territorial Lord didn't deliberately send anyone to kill you if you appear as you are in the Northern Darkstar continent right under his sight, I believe he'll conveniently kill you off," said Jian Wushuang. "I am prepared for that." Xiao Qiexin took out a veil and a hat while she was speaking. The moment she put them on, none could recognize her. After that, both of them immediately left Dark Thunder territory and headed toward Northern Darkstar continent. The Northern Darkstar continent was the core of Northern Darkstar territory, but it was not very vast. It was not even the size of a wilderness. However, experts who lived there were way above other regions of the Northern Darkstar territory. Jian Wushuang and Xiao Qiexin were already at Northern Darkstar continent. Xiao Qiexin had told Jian Wushuang a lot of things about that place as they journeyed over. Jian Wushuang carefully listened. The Northern Darkstar continent is different from the wildernesses. Sects are almost non-existent in this continent. There are only various clans with varying ability levels. There were 4 top-tier clans in the continent among them, but since the Shao clan had been eliminated, only 3 top-tier clans remained. The 3 clans are Wu, Shi, and Situ clans, respectively. These 3 clans contained legacies accumulated over 1,000,000 years or so. It goes to say their foundations and abilities extremely stable and strong. Take the Shao clan as an example. When we were at our prime, there were a total of 4 peak ultimate gods and over 20 high-level ultimate gods. As for low-level ultimate gods, we had over 100 of them. Even so, we're only ranked 3rd among those great clans in the northern Darkstar continent. Oh, Jian Wushuang looked rather surprised. 4 peak ultimate gods, over 20 high-level ultimate gods, and more than 100 low-level ultimate gods. That was an even stronger lineup than the combined forces of Dark Thunder Territory's 18 prefectures. Even with that lineup, it only ranked 3rd. Chapter 2533. Structure. The Shao clan was so strong during its prime and only ranked 3rd. Then which are the 2 clans more powerful than Shao clan? Jian Wushuang inquired. Wu and Shi clan, with both clans a step ahead of the Shao clan in terms of general abilities. Not to mention that both clans have their own Earth ultimate god, said Shao Tiexin. Jian Wushuang was truly shocked then. What? You're saying that these 2 clans both have an Earth ultimate god? They do indeed, but their Earth ultimate gods don't stay in the northern Darkstar continent. They went out very early on to wander. Not everyone is like the territorial lord who wants to control territories and become its overlord after all. Most experts choose to go wander and experience bigger places so that they could become stronger and travel further, said Shao Tiexin. Jian Wushuang understood. Humans truly aspire for higher pursuits in life. When a cultivator reached a peak in certain territories, he would naturally expand his horizons and find bigger arenas to test his abilities. Although Jian Wushuang was interested in the territorial lord position, his main goal was to obtain more primordial stones. He would definitely adventure to larger places as soon as he obtained sufficient primordial stones. Actually, not only the Wu and Shi clans, the Shao and Sidu clans have also produced Earth ultimate gods in the past. It's exactly because there used to be Earth ultimate gods in their residence that these few clans were qualified to be labeled as a top-tier clan. Unfortunately, both Shao and Sidu clans lost their Earth ultimate gods when they died during their adventures outside, said Shao Tiexin. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He imagined an alternate reality where the Shao clan's resident Earth ultimate god was still alive. The territorial lord might perhaps not dare touch the Shao clan. Even though said Earth ultimate god did not stay in the northern Darkstar continent, as his opponent was also an Earth ultimate god, about the same level after all. Some consideration must be given before making any moves. Unfortunately for them, the Shao clan's Earth ultimate god had died. Hence the northern Darkstar territorial lord would naturally not be scrupulous. Other than top-tier clans are a lot of mid-tier and low-tier clans on the northern Darkstar continent. Shao Tiexin continued her explanation. Most mid-tier clans have peak ultimate gods in residence, but the most they have are 2 at any time. Furthermore, the clan's foundations aren't too strong. Their general substantiality was a far cry from top-tier clans. Those mid-tier clans had to lower their heads when facing the Shao clan at its prime. They won't even have the nerve to cross us. Those low-tier clans are the bottom feeders who could have a standing on the northern Darkstar continent. Their abilities are still quite extraordinary despite being low-tier clans. They don't have peak ultimate gods in residence, but they do have quite a lot of high-level ultimate gods, and most importantly, a very vast network. It's one matter when they are in normal fights, but when facing life and death situations, these low-tier clans will utilize their networks and foundations to actually form a rather strong allied force in a short time. Jian Wushuang finally understood. The 3 clan levels on the northern Darkstar continent, in terms of abilities, might seem very far apart from each other. However, there were reasons that allowed them to have a foothold on the continent and should not be taken lightly. Of course, regardless of a clan's abilities or sturdy foundations, The real overlord on the Northern Darkstar continent will always be the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. Xiao Taixin's expression turned frosty. The Territorial Lord is an Earth ultimate god. Furthermore, I hear he's also extremely strong among Earth ultimate gods. There were only 3 people who tried challenging him since he became the Territorial Lord. Challenge! Jian Wushuang was paying more attention. Territorial lords are the lord of a territory. It's his abilities that gave him his position in the first place. Anyone who is confident about his own abilities could, of course, challenge the Territorial Lord. However, he would have to meet a lot of criteria before the challenge. The Territorial Lord is a noble position after all, and not anyone could challenge him. As long as the criteria are met, one could challenge the Territorial Lord, but he would need to be free to take up the challenge. Xiao Chexin paused a little and continued. Normally, as long as that person met the criteria and issued a challenge, the Territorial Lord will have to accept it within a millennium, but that also implies he would always wait for 1,000 years before finally crossing hands with his challenger. However, this Territorial Lord has never dragged it out. He answers those challenges very soon, so long someone issues him a challenge. There were only 3 people who met all criteria to challenge him since he became the Territorial Lord, with those 3 people being Earth ultimate gods through and through. However, the results were all 3 being defeated, and 2 of them were killed by the Territorial Lord. The remaining survivor is severely injured. Is he that powerful? Jian Wushuang frowned. He originally thought the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord was merely a regular Earth ultimate god, but looked like it was not so. Among those 3 Earth ultimate god challengers, 2 died, and 1 suffered serious injuries. It was proven the Territorial Lord's abilities were extremely strong even among Earth ultimate gods. This Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord isn't only powerful in terms of abilities. He also has an official army under his control. The official army, the most powerful and terrifying army in the Northern Darkstar territory that only a Territorial Lord could control. Xiao Chexin looked solemn. The official army is 10,000 men strong, with each battalion consisting of 1,000 men. You have to understand that the weakest soldiers in the official army are peak divine demons. In addition, sergeants leading the 10-man squads are at least low-level ultimate gods, while leaders for the 100-man platoons are at least high-level ultimate gods. As for leaders of the 1,000-man battalions, are none other than peak ultimate gods. In other words, just the official army itself will contain more than 10 peak ultimate gods, 100 high-level ultimate gods, and 1,000 low-level ultimate gods. Heavens! Jian Wushuang showed a stunned expression. When he was at Wusha Wilderness, even the most powerful sects only had 4 ultimate gods, with the entire Wusha Wilderness having only approximately a dozen ultimate gods. However, just the Northern Darkstar Territory's official army had 1,000 ultimate gods. What would that mean? It's exactly because of his strong abilities in addition to his control over the terrifying official army that the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord could rule this territory with supreme authority. It's one of the reasons many sects in the various wildernesses, including many clans on the Northern Darkstar continent under the Northern Darkstar Territory's control, would not dare disobey him and had to make primordial stone offerings every millennium with just a single order from him. Even the Wu and Shi clans, who still have living Earth ultimate gods in residence, had to make handsome offerings every 1,000 years to show their loyalties. Jian Wushuang thus completely understood the Northern Darkstar continent power structure when Xiao Chexin finished speaking. Chapter 2534. A special gamble as a newcomer in the Northern Darkstar continent. My first step is to find my footing, followed by finding ways to obtain more primordial stones and upgrading my cultivation level and abilities. Once I have absolute confidence, only then will I plan on challenging the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. Jian Wushuang squinted slightly and looked over at Xiao Tiexin. Tiexin, you're familiar with this place. Do you know how I could obtain a large sum of primordial stones in a short time? Jian Wushuang asked. The fastest way to obtain primordial stones is becoming a territorial lord. First and foremost, Mr. Jian Yi has great potential, but still quite a distance from being able to challenge the territorial lord, said Xiao Tiexin. Jian Wushuang rolled his eyes at Xiao Tiexin and signaled her to say something more useful. Other than becoming a territorial lord, you can also provoke the northern Darkstar continent clans, as even the weakest clan would have huge savings. But as I've said before, that those low-tier clans do have their strengths, and especially their networks. If you're planning on getting primordial stones by annihilating the clans individually, as you did back in the Dark Thunder territory, I'm afraid it's not so easy, said Xiao Tiexin. Jian Wushuang shrugged. He currently could not but head on against those clans due to his lack of abilities. Even if he did, he would not annihilate an entire clan with no good reason except for obtaining some primordial stones. Those clans were different from the Dark Thunder territory's 18 prefectures after all. The prefectures were thieves, murderers, and smugglers, hence he was not bothered at all when killing them. If you don't have the heart to deal with these clans, then the only place to get a large sum of primordial stones within a short time would be the gladiatorial arena. Gamble fight. I know of a very large gladiatorial arena in North Darkstar continent owned by the Sher clan, one of the 3 top-tier clans. In the arena, participants could carry out gamble fights. Furthermore, there is a special gamble fights method in the arena, which is the Blood Gladiator Challenge. Xiao Tiexin solemnly said, Blood Gladiator Challenge. What's that? Jian Wushuang asked. Xiao Tiexin smiled and explained, Mr. Jian Yi, there would be a limit to bets placed in regular gamble fights, as you might know. It's the same in the Sher clan's arena. The upper limit is 1,000 primordial stones at max. Therefore, if you want to obtain 10,000 primordial stones in one go, you would have to win 10 consecutive gamble fights. In addition, the arena's management will lower the odds upon noticing your excessively strong abilities, which will allow you to win with certainty. This will then make it even harder to obtain those 10,000 primordial stones. However, challenging blood gladiators is completely different, as the bet's upper limit, which can be placed on a blood gladiator, is 5,000 primordial stones, not to mention those bets could be constantly accumulated. For example, if you brought 5,000 primordial stones to a gamble fight and win a game, the next game's bet will be 10,000, and winning that game will yield you 20,000, which can then be accumulated for the next round, and so on. This is the only way you could win many primordial stones in one go at the arena. However, the condition is that you must first win 5 consecutive games before you can stop when taking up the Blood Gladiators Challenge. It's without the need to mention that the arena will pick your opponents who won't be too ridiculous, as they will pick someone close to your standards. For example, the 5 opponents you'll go against are going to be primary level ultimate gods, and there won't be any high-level ultimate gods appearing if Mr. Jian Yi is to challenge the Blood Gladiators. Understood, answered Jian Wushuang. The bet's upper limit could reach 5,000 primordial stones when taking up the Blood Gladiators Challenge, with his winnings being doubled at every round. However, he had to finish 5 games before he could leave. If he lost even one of the 5 games, not only would he lose all his bets, he might even lose his life. I'm afraid that the arena would pick my next opponents according to my performance in the 5 gamble fights. They would probably send mighty similar level experts to defeat me and make it difficult for me to leave with the primordial stones. I've won. Therefore, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to win those 5 games, said Jian Wushuang. Indeed, the Blood Gladiators Challenge is not for just about anyone, and neither could everyone hold themselves together for their 5 games. The gladiatorial arena won't easily allow you to bring home your winnings, Hence, many tried challenging those blood gladiators and usually could only win 2 to 3 gamble fights before losing their lives in the end, said Xiao Tiexin. It's no doubt that one's risk is directly proportional to his final winnings. There have been several challengers who succeeded in the Blood Gladiators Challenge. They not only won a huge amount of primordial stones, but even became very famous in the end. As far as I know, there's a peak ultimate god general in the Territorial Lord's official army who succeeded in the arena's Blood Gladiators Challenge. Mr. Jian Yi, you're a genius in every aspect and can already easily kill high-level ultimate gods while being at the primary level ultimate god. You even managed to safely retreat when facing a peak ultimate god. Winning 5 games shouldn't be a problem if you do indeed take up the arena's Blood Gladiators Challenge. As for primordial stones, your total winnings would be 160,000 pieces if you placed a bet of 5,000 primordial stones, followed by winning 5 consecutive games. Jian Wushuang felt tempted when he heard that. He had reached the peak of first-class divine demon and only needed 20,000 to 30,000 primordial stones before making a breakthrough to peak divine demon. However, cultivating towards the ultimate god realm would require even more primordial stones once he reached peak divine demon. 160,000 primordial stones were not a small figure for Jian Wushuang. The Blood Gladiator Challenge would most definitely be dangerous and difficult for most people, but it was probably nothing for Jian Wushuang. Tiexin, I've exhausted all my primordial stones obtained at Dark Thunder territory. You still have 6,000 pieces. Lend me 5,000. And when I've completed the Blood Gladiators Challenge, it'll return you double the amount. Jian Wushuang smiled. No problem. Xiao Tiexin agreed, without a second thought. In that case, lead the way, said Jian Wushuang with a smile. Jian Wushuang headed toward the Shi clan's gigantic gladiatorial arena, with Xiao Tiexin leading the way. The gladiatorial arena was incredibly noisy. There were probably a few 100,000 people sitting tightly together in the audience seats, with many of them hysterically shouting and roaring. The noises could probably shake the heavens. In the arena's center was a giant battlefield. 2 peak divine demons giving their all and fighting violently on the battlefield, as there could only be one survivor. Chapter 2535. Gladiatorial Arena. That's pretty crazy, exclaimed Jian Wushuang while he took in the battlefield sight. Those who dare come and gamble fight at this arena are crazy, said Xiao Tiexin. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and immediately recalled his past lives' younger days. During that time, he obsessively upgraded his abilities and also went to the arena for deathmatch gamble fights to obtain more cultivation elixir because of a woman humiliating him. He was only a teen then and was lucky he won in the end. He wanted to laugh as he recalled how naive he was during those days. Tiexin, I'll register for the gamble fight. Wait for me here, said Jian Wushuang. Okay. Xiao Tiexin nodded and seated herself. Jian Wushuang went to the arena's registrar with the usher's guidance. It was an empty field with several cultivators there other than Jian Wushuang. Most of them were waiting to go on, with only a very few still lining up to register. That's quite a lot of people. Jian Wushuang looked around at those people who were in the divine demon realm with their levels ranging between second class, first class, and peak divine demons. However, there were no ultimate gods there. It was rather normal, as ultimate gods were considered experts at Northern Darkstar. They would be placed in a rather high position regardless if they joined the official army or one of the continent's clans, hence erasing the need for them to be involved in such arena gambling fights. Even if they did, they were gambling and fighting to gain experience, or like Jian Wushuang, who merely wished to earn a huge amount of primordial stone. However, there were not many such ultimate gods. Jian Wushuang queued to register, and it was his turn soon. Leave your name in the jade slip beside. Show us your divine power aura and your bets before waiting here, spoke a black-robed old man sitting next to the desk slowly, without even raising his head to look at Jian Wushuang. His only action was passing a jade slip toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took the jade slip but did not do anything. The black-robed old man impatiently instructed, "Faster! There are still many waiting behind you." "Well, I would like to challenge the blood gladiators," said Jian Wushuang plainly. The old man immediately raised his head as soon as he said that. Every cultivator in the field who was waiting for their turns also turned their gazes at Jian Wushuang. The entire place fell silent. "What did you just say?" asked the black-robed old man. "I would like to challenge the blood gladiators. Is there a problem?" Jian Wushuang said, "Oh, no. You can, of course. The blood gladiator challenge rules are written there. You can, of course, make the challenge as long as you are confident, but I would like to ask for you to show your divine power aura." The black-robed old man's attitude toward Jian Wushuang became more polite. The blood gladiator challenge was the most unique gamble fight way in the gladiatorial arena. This kind of gamble fight was incredibly cruel and unfair, but with amazingly huge rewards. In normal circumstances, those who had the galls to challenge those blood gladiators were mostly very competent experts at their levels who were also very confident about themselves. The black-robed old man surely did not dare treat them like everyone else toward such experts. Jian Wushuang shook his body under the black stone's disguise as he projected his divine power aura outwards. Ultimate God. Everyone around was once again shocked. Why would an ultimate God show up in a place for gamble fights? Not to mention, he was challenging the incredibly merciless blood gladiators. The black-robed old man inquired, "So you're an honorable ultimate God. May I know what's your name and how much you would like to bet?" "Sir, my name is Jian Yi, and isn't the bet's upper limit for the Blood Gladiator Challenge 5,000 primordial stones? I'll place that amount as the bet." Jian Wushuang took out an interspatial ring, which contained 5,000 primordial stones within soon as he finished speaking. 5,000 primordial stones as the bet. The old man was shocked. Those surrounding people were also gasping in surprise. 5,000 primordial stones was a huge number even for an ultimate god. At least, it was not something any primary-level ultimate god could afford. However, that Jian Yi wanted to place 5,000 primordial stones as his bet. It meant that the total primordial stones that he could potentially bring home from the arena would amount to 160,000 if he won all 5 games in the Blood Gladiator Challenge. How large a number was 160,000 primordial stones? Even a top-tier clan, like the Sher clan who owned this gladiatorial arena, would probably feel pain from losing such a big amount. After taking a deep breath, the black-robed old man respectfully said, "Please wait for a little bit, sir. I'll need to immediately inform our supervisor, and we shall arrange a blood gladiator to be your opponent." "Very well." Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. The black-robed old man immediately entered the gladiatorial arena's inner layer while ignoring the others who were waiting to register. Jian Wushuang was not in a hurry and merely waited in the field quietly. The cultivators around him occasionally looked over toward him with awe and respect. In a delicately built room at the gladiatorial arena's inner layer, a primary-level ultimate god wants to challenge a blood gladiator. An elegant lady who was wearing a snow-white fleece dress sat calmly in there as the black-robed old man stood respectfully before her. In a 10-year average, there isn't even a person who would come to challenge. Moreover, those who come are usually some divine demons, and now we have an ultimate god. On top of that, he's betting 5,000 primordial stones. Looks like he's pretty confident about himself. Interesting. The elegant lady smiled faintly. "Oh yes, what's his name?" "His name is Jian Yi. I've checked with the clan's intelligence department, but it seems like no one knows about this Jian Yi," said the old man. "If the clan's intelligence has no information about him, that means he's a newcomer in the northern Darkstar continent, an unknown expert in the continent who probably came from one of the wildernesses," muttered the elegant lady before instructing, "Go on and make the arrangements. Simply pick 2 opponents for him and test him out first." "Aye." The black-robed old man bowed and left immediately. On the battlefield, located in the arena's center, one of the 2 fighters who were fighting had died, and hence a winner had been decided. The audience remained to be incredibly noisy even with the battle being over. At that moment, a purple-clad middle-aged man, who was the arena's host, walked into the center of the battlefield. Chapter 2536. Selecting Blood Gladiator, Ladies and Gentlemen. The purple-clad middle-aged man's voice resonated in the entire gladiatorial area with the help of his divine power and completely overpowered those noises from the crowd. The arena quickly quieted down. The purple-clad middle-aged man cleared his throat and said with a rather excited voice, "Dear guests, we have just been paid a visit by a certain ultimate god called Sir Jian Yi. He placed a bet of 5,000 primordial stones and wishes to challenge the arena's craziest and most unique blood gladiator." As soon as those words were spoken, the quiet arena was suddenly filled with waves of roars from the audience. All the audiences in the arena stood up and shouted, "Blood gladiators! Someone actually wants to challenge the blood gladiators. This is so crazy. A supposedly respectable ultimate god actually wants to challenge blood gladiators." The passion of more than 100,000 audiences in the arena had completely lit up. "Is it starting soon?" Xiao Tiexin casually sat in an audience's seat with a faint smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's invite Mr. Jian Yi to enter the arena," said the purple-clad, middle-aged man passionately. As soon as his voice faded, Jian Wushuang moved with a quick sway and swiftly appeared in the middle of the battlefield after being led to one side of the arena. His appearance caused the audience's gazes locking on him. The more than 100,000 pairs of eyes stared right at him. "He's that Jian Yi? He seems very young." Thanks, such a handsome young man." "I like, humph, don't be deceived by his young look. He's a true ultimate god expert. God knows how many years he has been cultivating. He could be an old monster. I hear he needs to win 5 consecutive games when challenging blood gladiators. Moreover, all of his opponents are selected by the arena, making the chances of him succeeding very low unless he's an extremely terrifying genius who could fight against higher realm opponents. Indeed, I've been living in the northern Darkstar continent for so many years and heard quite a few blood gladiator challenges. It's already very impressive if there's even a 1 in 10 challenge that succeeded. Furthermore, the one who succeeded is only a second-class divine demon. It's exactly because of his low cultivation level which made it easier for him to challenge those of a higher realm. That's how he succeeded. However, this guy is an ultimate god after all. 5,000 primordial stones is the highest betting limit in this arena. That's a huge amount. If he succeeded in the challenge, doesn't that mean he'll bring home 160,000 primordial stones? How could this arena and its benefactor, the Sure clan, let him get away with it? Look at him. He's definitely going to die on the battlefield. There were all sorts of discussions among the audiences. Most people were not confident in Jian Wushuang. It was not only because Jian Wushuang was currently an ultimate god, which made winning all 5 battles to be extra difficult. The most important matter was his placed bet was too large. The Sure clan who's behind this gladiatorial arena would find every way to kill or make him stay. Otherwise, 160,000 primordial stones were not a financial burden the Sure clan was willing to bear. Xiao Qiexin was sitting in a corridor and sneering at all the argy-bargy around her. These people have no idea how terrifying Jianyi's abilities are. He's someone who continuously topples 3 Dark Thunder Territories prefectures and slaying high-level ultimate gods by himself. Even though the Shi clan is one of Northern Darkstar Continent's top-tier clans, they would not be able to find another primary-level ultimate god who could withstand Mr. Jianyi despite having controlling rights to everything. Xiao Qiexin was absolutely confident about Jian Wushuang. That confidence came from her personally observing Jian Wushuang's abilities. In the battlefield center, the purple-clad middle-aged man spoke again. "Dear guests, let's welcome Mr. Jianyi's first battle. His opponent is Mr. Mo Xing." A muscular figure violently glided over and landed on the ground in the middle of the battlefield. He was a 2-meter-tall, middle-aged, burly man. The man's face was covered in a beard as his vicious aura radiated through the heavens like a fierce living beast. As he appeared, the ground under his feet cracked from being unable to bear his weight. The audience once again broke into an uproar upon seeing him. "It's Mo Xing, Sir Mo Xing. Good God, this is only the first battle, and they already sent Sir Mo Xing. This Mo Xing has fought head-to-head with 4 primary-level ultimate gods in this arena previously and won all of them. He's definitely incredibly strong among the primary-level ultimate gods." A lot of people began to pity Jian Wushuang. His opponent was already so strong in the first round, and they would only get stronger in the 4 forthcoming games. Let's not waste any more time. The first battle of the Blood Gladiator Challenge will now begin. The purple-clad middle-aged man announced before going away, leaving Jian Wushuang and Mo Xing on the battlefield. The audience began to get agitated. Numerous audiences began screaming, with some calling Mo Xing's name while others called out Jian Yi. On the battlefield, Jian Wushuang and Mo Xing stared at each other from a distance. Mo Xing sneered, "Kid, you got some guts challenging the Blood Gladiators. Show me what you got." Jian Wushuang's expression was indifferent. Humph. Mo Xing did not waste another word and swept out a horrifying, vicious aura from his body. He already looked like a fierce beast, and was even more beast-like when his figure turned into an exotic beast halfway, through gliding toward Jian Wushuang, and suddenly appeared right before and pounced at him. His right hand turned into a claw equipped with sharp nails which reflected cold lights. Slash! The claw swung. It produced a noise that made both of them shudder, as though space was being slashed open. The sharp claw went right through Jian Wushuang's body, like a light beam, but did not make contact with anything substantial. What? Mo Xing was stunned and felt a cold aura immediately come from his side. Mo Xing suddenly understood what was going on and instantly waved his claws to protect himself. Clank, clank, clank. 3 clashing sounds were heard. Mo Xing was being thrown off his feet with the first 2 clashes, while the last clash caused by Jian Wushuang's sword hit against Mo Xing's body armor. Mo Xing's face turned red, with a trace of blood flowing out of his mouth, as he was already standing on the battlefield's edge. Chapter 25:37. 3 consecutive wins, he fearfully looked at Jian Wushuang before immediately bowing and respectfully said, "Thank you for holding back." Jian Wushuang retracted his sword and did not say anything more. Mo Xing immediately exited the battlefield. Around the arena, the more than 100,000 audiences were dumbfounded by the spectacle. An uproar like a surging tsunami followed suit after the audience's momentary shock. It's a win. Jian Yi wins the first Blood Gladiator Challenge. Winning is for sure, but I didn't foresee him winning so easily. If he didn't hold back on the last hit, Mo Xing will probably be dead by now. Amazing. This Jianyi is truly amazing. Countless audiences were maniacally cheering for Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang looked extremely calm while standing on the battlefield and waiting for his second opponent. In the delicate room at the gladiatorial arena's inner layer, the elegant lady was scrutinizing every detail of the battle. This Jian Yi is fast and knows how to leave behind an apparition. He has made a breakthrough to the space-time law first stage. In addition, his sword skills are extraordinary. The elegant lady squinted. It's a shame that Mo Xing is too weak, as he hasn't even reached primary level ultimate god. Hence, he couldn't force Jian Yi to show more of his abilities and tactics. For his next opponent, get him someone a little stronger who is at least peak of primary level ultimate god. The black-robed old man nodded respectfully and went off to make the arrangements. Jian Wushuang's second Blood Gladiator Challenge soon began. His second opponent was a short and skinny old man who seemed very weak, but his abilities were extraordinary and definitely at the peak of primary level ultimate god. It was unlucky for him that his opponent was Jian Wushuang. In that battle, Jian Wushuang again quite easily defeated his opponent by simultaneously forming 3 apparitions accompanied by his sword technique. Jian Wushuang's third opponent was a red-haired young woman. The young woman's weapon was a long whip and had reached the first stage in 2 laws alongside her extremely outstanding whip skills and secret techniques. Her general abilities were even a little stronger than Xiao Tiexin in Jian Wushuang's opinion. Xiao Tiexin was someone who could simultaneously withstand 3 ultimate gods and still held the upper hand. Hence, this red-haired young woman's ability was unimaginable and enjoyed great fame not only within the gladiatorial arena, but also the entire northern Darkstar continent. In order not to reveal too much of his true abilities, Jian Wushuang did not unleash secret techniques in his battle, hidden his true understanding of space-time law, and suppressed his sword skills. As such, he needed to spend some effort before defeating the red-haired young woman. Jian Wushuang won 3 consecutive battles. The entire arena was already boiling. In the delicate room, the elegant lady remained seated, but her expressions showed a faint coldness. Hong Ying is considered extremely strong among the primary level ultimate gods. She could still fight a good fight when facing regular high-level ultimate gods, but had also lost to him. It also seems like he's still holding back his true strength. The elegant lady slightly squinted. In the Blood Gladiators Challenge, one had to fight 5 challenges, and Jian Wushuang had already won 3 of them. Only 2 battles were remaining. Get Tuing, instructed the elegant lady. The black-robed old man nodded and immediately exited. The black-robed old man soon brought in a devilish-looking black-robed young man and stood before the elegant lady. Tuing, did you see the previous battles just now? The elegant lady looked below at him. Not for the first 2 games, but I saw his battle with Hong Ying. This Jian Yi is truly capable. Based on what he has displayed, I see that he's no weaker than me, plus I get a feeling that he's still holding out on us. I probably only have a 40% winning chance in a head-on fight against him, said the black-robed devilish man called Tuing. 40%. Huh? The elegant lattice eyes turned frosty. What about killing him? If you want me to kill him, I have a 70% confidence, said Tuing. Their conversation would sound strange if others heard it. How could he have a 70% chance of killing Jian Wushuang while only having a 40% chance to win him in a head-on fight? You will take the next battle then, but remember that I don't want you to defeat him. I want you to kill him off. The elegant lattice voice was cold. He has already won 3 of the 5 Blood Gladiator Challenges. It's time to finish it now, while the crowd's emotions are still rather high. Understood. Tuing smiled devilishly before turning around and left. Not long after, Tuing appeared in the battlefield's central area. He came before Jian Wushuang. The audience immediately recognized him as soon as he appeared. It's Sir Tuing. Is Sir Tuing going to personally fight him? Sir Tuing is the most powerful and prized primary-level ultimate god fighter in this gladiatorial arena. I thought he'd only appear in the 5th battle, but now he's already appearing during the 4th. This Jian, he is in big troubles. The audiences were discussing. Jian Wushuang looked extremely cold without showing any expressions as he took a glance at Tuing. Tuing humbly and respectfully greeted Jian Wushuang. Jian, yes, I hope to exchange some pointers with you one. Go ahead. Jian Wushuang did not waste any time. Please be careful then. Tuing gave him a friendly warning and vanished into thin air in a flash. Whoosh! A ghastly figure appeared next to Jian Wushuang, along with layers of blade shadows concurrently formed from the cold battle blade, headed directly toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang remained still, but his blood mountain sword was slightly raised and blocked the battle blade in front of him. Tang! The sound of metals clashing was heard as Tuing smiled devilishly, and with a shattering noise, stern beams of blade light exploded. His continuous swinging created colorful blade lights, which left behind traces of a shiny blade river in the void. This guy's blade technique is pretty good, Jian Wushuang secretly exclaimed. The 7 stars secret technique within his body was already activated. After that, his violently surging divine power enabled Jian Wushuang to easily block Tuying's blade. At first glance, Jian Wushuang was only able to passively ward off Tuying's relentless attacks and kept retreating as though he was on the losing side. Jian Wushuang's expression remained as calm as ever regardless of Tuying's fierce attacks. Is that your full capabilities? Jian Wushuang looked at Tuing. Tuying's abilities were slightly stronger than the red-haired young woman, Hong Ying, who crossed hands against Jian Wushuang a while ago, but there was still a limit regardless of how strong he was. Chapter 2538. Murderous intention. Did he just completely ward off my saber? Tuing looked surprised. That's enough. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. His body concurrently transformed into 7 apparitions from not wanting to waste time mucking around with Tuing. He was faster than before, while his sword skills had also improved to be more seamless and flitting. His strength was slightly revealed. He instantly switched from defense to offense. On the contrary, Tuing strenuously started madly warding off Jian Wushuang's sword attacks, and barely able to hold on any longer. I'm going to lose. Tuing was aware and tried to distance himself from Jian Wushuang when he could no longer resist those attacks. It's amazing you can concurrently produce so many apparitions. Your understanding of space-time law is certainly quite high, not to mention your outstanding swordsmanship, said Tuing admiringly. Thank you, said Jian Wushuang as he withdrew his blood mountain sword. Suddenly, boom, Tuying's blood started boiling. He was gearing up to perform his most powerful secret technique. His speed had increased by several folds in an instant, and he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang in a crazy forward dash. He held a saber in his hand, which was shining with a cold light, and he was aiming it at Jian Wushuang's head. He was moving swiftly all of a sudden. The spectators were convinced that Tuing had given up, but who would have thought that he would make a comeback shot? He was acting so humble and polite before, but his face now turned distorted in scowls of rage. His gaze became inhuman, with strong desires to kill. Idiot! The rules clearly state that the battle is only over when one party leaves the gladiatorial arena. I was pretending earlier. Do you really think that I've really lost? Tuing sneered. He was the trump card among their primary-level ultimate gods, after all. He was chosen not only because he was extremely powerful, but also due to his cunning nature. The secret technique he was using ramped up his powers Not to mention, he also had a killing blow, which he spent a long time cultivating. He was convinced it would threaten a high-level ultimate god's defenses and eventually kill them. That was why, when he told the elegant lady in the room that he only had a 40% chance of winning if he were to duel with Jian Wushuang, but was 70% sure he could kill Jian Wushuang. It was indeed true that he was not Jian Wushuang's opponent in a one-on-one fight. Life-or-death battles in the gladiatorial arena did not limit their participants to winning via frontal fights only. All kinds of methods, including sneak and poison attacks, were also acceptable. Tu Ying did not violate any rules of the gladiatorial arena. Go to hell. Don't blame me. Blame yourself for being stupid and naive. Tu Ying grinned slyly. His blade was less than a foot away from Jian Wushuang's head. A large hand suddenly grabbed the saber to his surprise. The saber's power surged as Tu Ying was trying his best to completely discharge his divine powers into the saber. However, the saber stayed motionless under the large hand's tight grip. How is that possible? Tu Ying stared at Jian Wushuang in bewilderment as he realized the large hand belonged to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang had his eyes fixed on Tu Ying sternly, like he was staring at a clown or an ant. Why you? Tu Ying was shocked and speechless. Actually, I didn't plan to kill you, but you brought it upon yourself. Go to hell, murmured Jian Wushuang, who seemed to be muttering to himself. The icy cold sword light flashed past and instantly killed Tu Ying as it penetrated his body, without giving him even a second to react. Tu Ying's eyes widened with disbelief look on his face as the last breath escaped his body. This was Jian Wushuang's first kill since the many battle rounds he had. He merely defeated and subdued his previous 3 opponents without killing them. However, he had a murderous intent toward Tu Ying. Jian Yi should be declared the victory party, which brought an end to the battle as soon as Tu Ying died. Usually, tumult would break out from the spectators' seats from cheers for the winner. Instead, it was dead silence. Many spectators were dumbfounded and looked blankly at the scene in the gladiatorial arena. Everyone thought Jian Wushuang was going to die when Tu Ying executed his mysterious killing blow sneak attack, but it was Tu Ying who died in the end. His death was tragic, as he initially thought of himself as being the strongest and capable of killing Jian Wushuang with his ultimate blow, but the reality was that his attack had been stopped by his opponent with just one hand. The audience did not expect this. The silence did not last long and was soon replaced by an earth-shaking roar. In an exquisite room within the inner circle of the gladiatorial arena, "Bastard!" The graceful woman stood up and stared at Jian Wushuang, who was seemingly unscathed on the gladiatorial arena. Her complexion became extremely ugly. "Jian Yi has been hiding his real strength from the beginning," said the graceful woman solemnly. "Are you saying he's not a primary-level ultimate god? Could he be a high-level ultimate god, or even above that, but was just masking his true divine powers?" The black-robed old man looked over in surprise. "No, the breath of his divine powers seems normal. There's no trace of disguise, but he's powerful indeed. The average high-level ultimate gods have no chance to survive Tu Ying's killing blow, but we saw that not only was Jian Yi uninjured, but he could also even grip the saber with his bare hands. In order to grab a top primary-level ultimate god expert's most powerful attack with his bare hand alone, he must be a high-level ultimate god on top of having an extremely powerful divine body. I'm not surprised if his true strength is better than what he has shown us now." The graceful woman's eyes became stern. The black-robed old man asked, "What should we do now? The Blood Gladiators Challenge has 5 rounds in total, and he has won 4 of them. Who do we send for the final battle? There is no one more powerful than Tu Ying among the primary-level ultimate gods." The graceful woman waved her hand. Don't be flustered. Let Jian Yi wait while I report this situation to the Shi clan's head and seek for his decision. The black-robed old man nodded. The graceful woman would usually have made up her mind, but the bet was 160,000 primordial stones. Such a huge amount of primordial stone had exceeded the graceful woman's authority, and the Shi clan head must be alerted for a decision to be made. Chapter 25:39. Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The Shi clan was one of the top-tier clans in the Northern Darkstar territory. Hence, naturally, their residence was huge. In a grand hall, the head of the Shi clan, Shi Qianhan, was talking with two other people, and the three were seemingly equal, as none of them had acted haughtily. Those two, who could be with Shi Qianhan on equal footings, were definitely not ordinary people. In fact, they were commanders of the army. At that instance, Shi Qianhan's expression changed, with his brows knitted tightly as he received a message from the graceful woman. "What's the matter?" asked both commanders upon noticing the changes in Shi Qianhan's complexion. Something happened at the gladiatorial arena. A primary-level ultimate god who joined the Blood Gladiators Challenge had won 4 games in a row, said Shi Qianhan. Blood Gladiators? The two commanders were surprised. One of the commanders wearing scarlet armor smiled and said, "It's not easy to challenge the Blood Gladiators, especially the ultimate gods experts. He must be extremely powerful if this person can win 4 games in a row. I haven't seen a Blood Gladiator for a long time." The other commander also smiled. "I'm happy if there are new Blood Gladiators, but the current problem is Jian Yi's very large bet. He bet 5,000 primordial stones, and upon success, the Shi clan will lose 160,000 primordial stones at once." "That's not a small sum," said Shi Qianhan. 160,000 primordial stones. The two commanders were shocked. The Shi clan was indeed unwilling to lose such a large amount of primordial stones. "I hope both of you can help me this time, since we have a great friendship," said Shi Qianhan. "Both of us are peak ultimate gods. What can we do for you?" asked the scarlet-armored commander. "There's no need for both of you to take action in person. Are there any powerful primary-level ultimate gods in the army? It's best if there's someone who's strong enough to face a high-level ultimate god," explained Shi Qianhan. "A powerful primary-level ultimate god." The two commanders exchanged looks between each other, as they knew Shi Qianhan wanted to find a suitable expert from the army to face off Jian Yi. It seemed impossible to get a primary-level ultimate god from within the Shi clan to defeat Jian Yi. Hence, Shi Qianhan was hoping someone from the army could do it. The army had many geniuses and experts among them, after all. Some of them were definitely great, powerful, and brave warriors. This was not the only time the Shi clan received help from the army. There were many occasions when they had to win the Blood Gladiator Challenge's final battle, and their last resort was to get help from the army. It was only possible for the Shi clan, who had an excellent relationship with the powerful army leaders. It's not difficult to find someone from the army. In fact, I have a candidate under my command who is a primary-level ultimate god, yet is able to compete against high-level ultimate gods, and might even have a good chance of winning. He's currently serving as an army captain, which is a fitting position for a high-level ultimate god. However, it's a pity I sent him on a mission not long ago. There's no way that he could return in a short time, said the scarlet-armored commander. Shi Qianhan frowned. It was no use even though he could defeat Jian Yi, as he was going to be away for a while. "I can recommend someone to you," said the other white-robed commander. "Who?" Shi Qianhan immediately looked over. "Ancient witch," said the white-robed commander. "Oh, it's her." The scarlet-armored commander was taken aback. "Ancient witch? Who's she? Is she a primary-level ultimate god? In the army? Shi Qianhan asked. No, she's not from the army. Some members of our army accidentally provoked her not long ago. As a result, she taught those people a hard lesson. Those members later got their platoon consisting of a high-level ultimate god and 4 primary-level ultimate gods to avenge her, but they were miserably defeated, said the white-robed commander. Really? Is she that powerful? Did you say she's just a primary-level ultimate god? Shi Qianhan seemed hopeful. Of course she's just a primary-level ultimate god. The white-robed commander smiled and continued. The issue became worse such that the leaders were alarmed. We decided not to act rashly, and we investigated her origin instead. We later discovered that she's from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Shi Qianhan was taken aback. Is that the group which only accepts the cream of the crop as their members? The white-robed commander smiled and nodded. Yes. After discovering her identity, the commanders were shocked and immediately ordered those members who provoked her to apologize, and the matter was finally put at rest. Shi Qianhan finally understood after the explanation. He had also heard of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. If the ancient, which was part of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, no one would dare to meddle with her. Even the Northern Darkstar Territory's territorial lord would not dare to offend her. In terms of strength, ancient, which has defeated a high-level ultimate god before. She's much more powerful than the army's primary-level ultimate gods. If you can seek her help, you won't have to worry about Jian Yi winning the Blood Gladiators Challenge. The white-robed commander sneered. That's true. However, the Shi clan has no connections with her, who had such a great background. Why will she help me? Shi Qianhan frowned. You'll have to try hard and offer her something great in return. I've heard the ancient, which is especially fond of competing with other genius experts. If you tell her, there's someone in the gladiatorial arena who's in the same realm, but with similar if not better combat prowess than her, she might be tempted to fight. Provided there are some rewards added as well, said the white-robed commander. Shi Qianhan's eyes immediately lit up. Ha, thank you for telling me about her. Shi Qianhan did not delay any longer and set off to meet the ancient witch. Jian Wushuang was waiting patiently on the huge and almost borderless gladiatorial arena with his eyes closed. The more than 100,000 spectators around were also waiting. They knew the Shi clan must be looking for a strong expert to join the final battle. The expert invited must be very powerful, seeing how long they had to wait. This in turn would make for a more exciting Blood Gladiators Challenge finale. Everyone waited for almost a day before an usher finally entered the gladiatorial arena while guiding a black-clothed lady with a somewhat menacing appearance. Chapter 2540. Ancient, which all eyes had fallen on her as soon as the black-clothed lady appeared. Is she the expert specially invited by the Shi clan? She looks like a weak lady to me. Don't underestimate her. The Shi clan will never make fun of 160,000 of primordial stones unless they have gone crazy. The spectators were talking. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes and looked at the black-clothed lady. He could sense the lady had practiced some sort of technique to mask her true aura so that none could guess how powerful she truly was. He knew she must be powerful if the Shi clan sought her out as a candidate to face him in the final battle. So you're Jian Yi? The black-clothed lady, the ancient witch, blinked her eyes and peered at Jian Wushuang. I hear from the Shi clan that you're very powerful, so I'm keen to meet you. Make your move. Jian Wushuang was indifferent. Ha! You do have the charisma of a powerful person. The ancient witch cracked an evil grin before a black spear appeared in her hand. In a room within the inner layer of the gladiatorial arena, the graceful woman stood alongside a black-robed old man. As her eyes fixed on the gladiatorial arena. Can that lady threaten Jian Yi at all? The black-robed old man was doubtful. I'm uncertain, but she should be quite good. The clan head had personally invited her, after all. She's famous for having defeated a high-level ultimate god, said the graceful woman. Defeated a high-level ultimate god. The black-robed old man was stunned. They have started. The graceful woman was observing intently the ancient which made the first move. A black net seemed to have engulfed the entire gladiatorial arena as she moved. The ancient which completely melted into the darkness and disappeared. Jian Wushuang coldly stood there while discharged his soul powers, but was unable to locate the ancient witch's position within the darkness. She has an excellent command of the dark law. Jian Wushuang concluded. Swoosh! A cold light suddenly appeared right beside Jian Wushuang, without any signs. It had a terrifying penetrating power aiming directly for Jian Wushuang's head that pierced through and wrung the void. Jian Wushuang was startled as the cold light almost brushed his nose bridge. Oh! The ancient witch who reappeared was surprised that Jian Wushuang so easily avoided her spear. However, her imposing aura started surging the next second. The black spear in her hand instantly evolved from a venomous serpent into an awakened dragon. Rumbling, the void was shaking. The spear was eager to attack, and she thrust it toward Jian Wushuang in anger. Jian Wushuang retreated and was so close to being stabbed. The ancient witch raged when she saw that. Be a man and fight me instead of dodging around like a coward. Jian Wushuang chuckled in his heart as he had also decided not to elude her attacks anymore. Well, this is the fifth and final battle. There's no need to hide my strength anymore. Let's unleash our full potential, shall we? Jian Wushuang's face sank. Swoosh! He broke into a terrifying speed with his 11 apparitions and formed a total of 12 figures, including his real body. 12 identical figures were positioned around the gladiatorial arena, with no way of distinguishing which was the real Jian Wushuang from either one's naked eyes or soul powers. In the inner layers room, the graceful woman's eyes were cold like a frozen lake. It's indeed true that he's still concealing his true strength. He must have a very high understanding of the space-time law if he's able to form 11 apparitions. His strength is perhaps equivalent to a peak ultimate god. Jian Wushuang had only used 7 when he fought against Tu Ying in the 4th battle. However, Jian Wushuang was moving like a phantom with his 11 apparitions on the loose at the same time as he appeared in front of the ancient, which with his explosive sword skills. Slash! 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 There was a blurry trail of sword shadows as he casually waved his arm. That was right. He was moving around casually and effortlessly. He was incredibly fast under the space-time law's influence. On the other hand, the ancient witch who was completely contained in the darkness fiercely thrust her spear. She was very skillful with the spear and definitely the best spear handler Jian Wushuang had encountered so far. Jian Wushuang perceived the ancient witch's spear skills might be even better than his own sword skills. Unfortunately, she was nowhere near Jian Wushuang's speed. The ancient witch was completely at a disadvantage when the two fought head-on. Haha, you are great indeed. Although she was suppressed by Jian Wushuang from her somewhat restricted movements, she was not angry at all. On the contrary, she seemed to be quite surprised. The dark light that enshrouded the void suddenly converged and wrapped around the ancient, which as her complexion turned cold and her divine power breath thickened. At the same time, there was an earth-shaking rumbling sound before a strong killing intent covered the area with astonishing spear intent. An infinite spear world instantly appeared in the arena. Spear world. Jian Wushuang was impressed. Some of the spectators recognized the ancient witch's technique. It was a complete display of Spear World. The Spear World was somewhat similar to Sword World, as they were both principal worlds. The Sword World was a sword cultivator's higher realm achievement in order to establish their very own sword world. On the other hand, the Spear World was created by spear cultivators. They were similar in terms of power and characteristics. The ancient witch's Spear World seemed to be recently established, as it was evidently not as powerful as the Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor's Sword World in the Dark Thunder territory. In addition, a Spear World also posed a lesser threat to Jian Wushuang as compared with a Sword World. Nonetheless, it was still a principal world. Impressive. You're indeed a super genius from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, since you are able to display your very own Spear World while just at the primary level ultimate God realm. The two army commanders appeared at the spectators' seat without warning. They were surprised from seeing the scenes in the gladiator arena. Generally, only Earth ultimate gods could learn a principal world, with very few peak ultimate gods capable of doing so. Neither of the two of them had reached that level. However, the ancient witch was able to establish her own Spear World. Both commanders were envious of her. Chapter 2541. 1. The Spear World displayed had an oppressive effect on Jian Wushuang. Under the effects of her Spear World, the ancient witch had an advantage in terms of a great improvement in her spear skills. Jian Yi, let's fight now, said the ancient witch as she struck with her spear. Her speed and power had skyrocketed, making her attacks more versatile and efficient. Jian Wushuang felt pressured. He went all out with his sword skills, but was still suppressed by the ancient witch. She's damn good with the spear. Jian Wushuang admiringly exclaimed. She was good with the spear and had her own Spear World on top of an in-depth law understanding and techniques. In Jian Wushuang's opinion, her overall strength was much stronger than many high-level ultimate gods. She was an exceptional genius, and there were probably only one or two who could be similar to her level in the entire northern Darkstar territory. There might perhaps even be none at all. Jian Wushuang was curious how the Shi clan found such a strong opponent to fight against him. Ha ha, Jian Yi, you'll lose if this is all you're capable of. The ancient witch let out a peal of haughty laughter and hurled the spear in her hand. A cloud of darkness instantly filled the space as a majestic black dragon appeared out of thin air and aimed ferociously at Jian Wushuang. The terrifying power had completely restricted Jian Wushuang's body. Oh well, enough of playing around. Jian Wushuang's gaze became stern as the divine powers within his body were completely released. Jian Wushuang drew out his sword. An overwhelming feeling of hatred spontaneously aroused. Hate, hate, hate. He was determined and unfaltering. His sword shadow, accompanied with an intense feeling of hatred, swept across the void and left behind a trace of hateful path toward heaven. Boom! Sword lights flashed past. The black dragon was instantly split into half as a large amount of divine power madly stretched out and around. The ancient, which was horrified as her body, was flung out into the distance. She had only managed to stabilize herself when she was almost at the arena's edge. At the same time, she felt nauseous and spat out blood. The ancient, which stared at Jian Wushuang in disbelief. Your divine powers. You're obviously only a primary level ultimate god. Why is your divine power so strong? Yes, it was not the sword technique that had defeated her, but his overwhelming divine powers contained within the sword move. Jian Wushuang's divine power was definitely not common among the primary level ultimate gods. It's some sort of a secret technique. The ancient which made a wild guess. However, Jian Wushuang's powerful divine power did not come from the secret technique, but himself. as a perfect chaotic creature. His divine powers were unmatched by ordinary cultivators. His true realm was actually the pinnacle of first-class divine demons, but his divine powers were much stronger than many primary-level ultimate gods. Along with the divine powers bestowed by the primordial void's celestial body and Seven Stars' secret technique, which he just performed, the fusion of his divine powers was not inferior to those elite high-level ultimate gods. His divine powers would be even stronger had he performed divine god of punishment. It was no surprise the ancient witch was injured from just a single blow, with such powerful divine powers combined with his splendid sword technique. "You're flattering me." Jian Wushuang glanced at the ancient witch with his monotonous voice. "You won this time, but don't ever let me see you again. I'll definitely get you back next time," snorted the ancient witch coldly before she turned and left. She felt heavy-hearted and troubled as she walked away. There's unexpectedly a primary-level ultimate god who's stronger than me in Northern Darkstar territory. He's not slightly, but a lot stronger than me. His divine powers are extremely strong in addition to his high understanding of the laws and great sword skills. Even among Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's ultimate god's disciples, I'm afraid no one is his match apart from Senior Sister Lung. Senior Sister Lung, the ancient witch thought of the beautiful woman but immediately abandoned her idea. Senior Sister Lung is too cold and aloof. It's impossible for her to agree with a fight against Jian Yi. She shook her head before walking away without any further thoughts. There was a huge uproar after she left the arena. He won, he did it. A new ultimate god blood gladiator is born. Amazing. Jian Yi is really amazing. Jian Yi, Jian Yi. The entire arena was chanting Jian Wushuang's name. Experts were highly respected in every part of the world, and Jian Wushuang was definitely one worthy of such. The spectators frenzy cheered. Contrary to those spectators' enthusiasm, the graceful woman's and black-robed old man's face were gloomy and grim. She lost even after displaying her spear world. The graceful woman's eyes were cold with murderous intent. The room door was suddenly flung open as a white-haired, silver-robed man, surrounded by a few people, slowly walked in. Clan head. The graceful woman was startled. The white-haired, silver-robed man was Shi Qianhan, head of the Shi clan. The ancient witch lost, reported the graceful woman in a low voice. "I know. I've seen it from the spectator's seat." Shi Qianhan nodded with his unreadable facial expression. "I can't blame the ancient witch, as she has done her best. Her combat power is extremely strong even among the high-level ultimate gods, but she's nonetheless defeated by Jian Yi. It only shows that Jian Yi is stronger than her." The graceful woman nodded. The ancient witch did indeed give her best, but could not best Jian Wushuang. Now that Jian Yi has won 5 battles, he can take away 160,000 primordial stones from us. So the graceful woman was put in a difficult situation. The gladiatorial arena had not made such huge profits even in the past 10,000 years. It was uncommon for someone to bet using primordial stones like Jian Wushuang, after all, as most people usually bet on ancient god divine power. Chapter 2542. Ignorant, let him have the 160,000 of primordial stones first, said Shi Qianhan. Really? The graceful woman was reluctant. Humph, it's just temporary. What's there to be worried about? Shi Qianhan sneered. You meant, the graceful woman immediately looked over. Jian Yi has won 5 blood gladiators in a row. We have to give him the 160,000 primordial stones, but I can always find ways to get them back from him. I don't think it's that difficult, said Shi Qian coldly. The graceful woman knew Shi Qianhan had a plan. Third Elder, said Shi Qianhan. Yes, responded a gray-robed old man who came in with Shi Qianhan. I'll leave this to you. We have to take back the 160,000 primordial stones, no matter what. As for Jian Yi, such a genius who can defeat a member of Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is rare. He must be extremely talented. You may first try to recruit him into the Shi clan, and once I've full control over him, he can have the 160,000 primordial stones, if he needs it. 160,000 primordial stones are nothing when compared with a genius like him, said Shi Qianhan. What if he disagrees? Asked the gray-robed old man. Bring his body back along with the 160,000 primordial stones. Shi Qianhan's eyes turned cold. I understand. The gray-robed old man nodded and left right away. Seventh Elder, you'll wrap things up here. I'll return to the clan and await good news, said Shi Qianhan while glancing at the graceful woman. Yes, the graceful woman nodded. 5 consecutive battles victories. A huge number of spectators bore witness, while Jian Wushuang was crowned as the new blood gladiator. This news would no doubt spread throughout the Northern Darkstar territory like wildfire. The name Jian Yi would soon be known by every clan in the Northern Darkstar territory. Master Jian Yi, these are the primordial stones you've just won. You may count them. The black-robed old man handed an interspatial ring to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took the ring and nodded after scanning through. Jian Wushuang was happy the Shi clan did not try to negotiate and replace primordial stones with treasures of equivalent value. He did not linger in the arena after receiving the primordial stones. Along his way out of the arena, every cultivator who saw Jian Wushuang showed their respect. 2 figures appeared in front of Jian Wushuang before he left the gates. The 2 men, one wore a scarlet armor, and the other was in a white robe. Jian Yi, in the 3rd Army Commander, by Kong. In the 8th Commander, Huo Xiong. They introduced themselves first, the Army's commanders. Jian Wushuang was surprised. According to Shao Tiexin, the Army's commanders were powerful peak ultimate gods, while their 1,000 subordinates were highly revered and rather powerful in the Northern Darkstar territory. The commanders were respectable people that even the Northern Darkstar territory's clans had to be polite and dared not offend them. He wondered why the 2 commanders appeared in front of him. Why are you looking for me? Jian Wushuang's expression was calm. We watched your battle with the ancient witch. You are indeed extremely talented. The ancient, which is a super genius from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, and is in the same realm as you, yet she was defeated. It took us by surprise. The white-robed commander, by Kong, smiled. Dragon Phoenix Pavilion? Jian Wushuang quickly scanned through his mind, only to realize he had never heard of them. However, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion must be a very powerful force judging from both commanders' expressions before him. Otherwise, they would not have such geniuses as the ancient witch. Jian Yi, we won't waste your time. Both of us think that you are extremely talented and have great potential, so we want to invite you to come with us and join the army, said Huo Xiong. Join the army? Jian Wushuang smiled, but then resolutely shook his head. I appreciate both your kindness, but I don't plan to join the army for the time being, nor any other clans. You don't want to? Huo Xiong frowned slightly. Jian Yi, you have to think about your current situation. You've been targeted by many people, but I will guarantee your safety if you're willing to join the army. No one will dare to meddle with you in the entire Northern Darkstar territory, said by Kong. He meant what he said and was capable of doing so. The army commander in the Northern Darkstar territory only obeyed the commands of the territorial lord. No one else dared to mess up with them in the entire Northern Darkstar territory. Jian Wushuang would be safe under their protection, such that even the Shi clan would not find fault with Jian Wushuang. I'm sorry, but I really don't plan to join the army. "I'll go now." Jian Wushuang refused and moved to a side while trying to walk past them. Both of these commanders stood there with their faces turning a little ugly. This kid is too ignorant. Don't he know that we are actually saving him? Huixiong was angry. I'm to be blamed for this. I shouldn't have pitted this genius and suggest taking him back to the army to save him. I thought we could grow closer to him, but who would have known that he doesn't even appreciate it? That's all right. He can't blame it on anyone since he wants to die, snorted Huixiong coldly. Both commanders soon left. Jian Wushuang left the gladiatorial arena before both commanders. He took out a token and sent Xiao Tiexin a message once he left. "Tiexin, find a place and stay low for now. I'll look for you later," said Jian Wushuang. "Why? Could it be that someone from the Shi clan has marked you?" Xiao Tiexin immediately replied, "Ha, I won 160 primordial stones. Any clan in their right minds won't be willing to give away such a large amount of primordial stones, right?" Jian Wushuang smiled. He was very alert when he left the arena and noticed he was being tailed. "You must be careful," said Xiao Tiexin. "Don't worry, the Shi clan can't do anything to me. I'll entertain them if they want to play." Jian Wushuang was very confident. Chapter 2543. Failure in a magnificent hall inside Shi clan's mansion. Shi Qianhan waited quietly in this hall after returning from the gladiatorial arena. A burly old man with green eyes was also in the hall. This green-eyed old man was a high-level ultimate god in the Shi clan. "Elder, you've traveled far. Were there troubles in your journey?" Shi Qianhan asked. "Thank you for your concern. It's a rather smooth journey, albeit minor troubles when passing through Dark Thunder territory, but those bandits immediately flee after I mentioned our Shi clan." The green-eyed old man smiled. The Shi clan was one of Northern Darkstar continent top-tier clans and considered the second largest force in the entire continent after the territorial lord. They were undoubtedly extremely powerful. Amidst Dark Thunder territory's rampant robberies, even the 18 prefectures had to give the Shi clan some face. The green-eyed old man suddenly asked, "By the way, I hear something happened in the gladiatorial arena?" Shi Qianhan coldly said, "Well, something did happen. A primary-level ultimate god with unknown origins challenged the blood gladiators and won. He went wild with his bet and finally took home 160,000 primordial stone. Nonetheless, I've already asked the third elder to personally deal with this matter. I'm sure the third elder will return soon with the 160,000 primordial stones and that kid's corpse." The green-eyed old man gave an understanding look. At that very moment, third elder has returned, reported a Shi clan's servant. "Ha, he's back," Shi Qianhan happily exclaimed. The third elder, who Shi Qianhan sent to deal with Jian Wushuang, soon walked into the hall. He did not appear to be in a good mood. "Third elder, did you kill Jian Yi?" Shi Qianhan immediately asked. The third elder took a deep breath and answered with a low tone, "I'm incompetent, as I've neither killed Jian Yi nor brought back the 160,000 primordial stones." "What?" Shi Qianhan was shocked and deeply furrowed his brows. He pondered momentarily before asking, "He has helpers? Is that why you failed to kill him?" "No." The third elder shook his head. "I have 4 high-level ultimate gods, while he's alone." "Then why didn't you bring back those primordial stones?" Shi Qianhan asked quizzically. "We offered Jian Yi to join the Shi clan as per your instructions when we found him, but he refused without hesitation. After that, the 5 of us concurrently attacked him with intentions to kill, and although we managed to suppress him, we couldn't kill him," said the third elder. "You couldn't kill him?" Shi Qianhan was surprised. The third elder was one of Sher Clan's 5 peak ultimate gods. A peak ultimate god joined forces with 4 other high-level ultimate gods, yet was unable to kill a primary-level ultimate god. How could this be? Jian Yi is much stronger than what we thought. He had shown only bits and pieces of his actual strength in the arena while keeping his true powers hidden. In the beginning, I watched from the sideline as the 4 high-level ultimate gods battled against him. He was able to subdue the 4 by himself without giving them a chance to unleash their attacks on him, said Third Elder. He's indeed only a primary-level ultimate god, but is comparable to a top-tier high-level ultimate god when his divine power erupted. In addition, his swordsmanship and law understanding are also at the peak ultimate god level. The secret techniques, which he executed, are also extremely powerful. The Third Elder recalled Jian Wushuang's secret techniques in the battle earlier. The 1,000-foot-high golden god shadow was mighty, with ocean-like golden divine power currents sweeping through, while the huge golden prison could lock up everything within heaven and earth. There was also the golden armor strapped onto his body, which enhanced his combat prowess. Not forgetting his myriad of secret techniques, I tried my best and performed my strongest moves, yet was unable to hurt him at all. He probably knew we couldn't do anything to him, so he merely entertained us in the battle. He fought head-on against us for some time before deciding to leave via his enormous divine powers. There's no way we could catch up with him. He could have left much earlier, but deliberately stayed on to make a sport of us before leaving unfazed. The Third Elder narrated the whole battle ordeal, and even added in some of his assumptions. Shi Qianhan was perplexed after listening to the Third Elder. How come? How's that possible? He's merely a primary-level ultimate god, and you're saying that he deliberately faced a strong lineup consisting of 1 peak ultimate god and 4 high-level ultimate gods before calmly retreating. Shi Qianhan found the truth hard to digest. The green-eyed old man's expression suddenly changed while sitting next to Shi Qianhan. The green-eyed old man asked, "Third Elder, what does this Jian Yi look like? What are some of his noticeable traits? Was he using any particular secret techniques?" I cannot describe his look well, but I'm sure someone from the gladiator arena would have recorded him using an image token. It'll be easy to find him. He wears a golden robe and appears to be very young. He's exceptionally good with the sword with a high understanding of space-time law. He's also able to concurrently discharge 11 apparitions, said Third Elder. Golden robe, good with the sword, and a high understanding of space-time law, the green-eyed old man murmured and suddenly sprang up from his seat. It's him. Yes, it's him. Elder Yu, do you know him? Shi Qianhan looked at the green-eyed old man. No, I don't personally know him, but I've just heard of him from some of the 18 prefectures bandits when passing through the Dark Thunder territory, said the green-eyed old man. Oh, what's the matter? Shi Qianhan asked. Not long ago, there's a sudden shift among the Dark Thunder territory's 18 prefectures. They're no longer the 18 prefectures and can currently only be referred to as the 15 prefectures because 3 prefectures had been completely ruined by someone formidable. The green-eyed old man filled in the detail. Chapter 2544. The golden-robed man. 3 prefectures were destroyed. Shi Qianhan and the Third Elder were surprised. They had only learned about such news. The 3 exterminated prefectures are Demonic Moon, Heaven Poison, and Underworld. Although these 3 were the lowest-ranking prefectures among the 18 prefectures, all of them had a high-level ultimate god, and around 10 primary-level ultimate gods under their command chain on top of countless bandits. Nonetheless, not even a single one of those bandits escaped the attack, with all of them killed. I hear the man who destroyed the 3 prefectures is a golden-robed man of unknown origins, good with swords, well-versed in space-time law, and also a primary-level ultimate god. Shi Qianhan, and third elders were startled by the news. He was dressed in a golden robe, good with the sword, and had a high understanding of space-time law. He was only a primary-level ultimate god, yet his immense combat powers allowed him to single-handedly exterminate 3 prefectures. The descriptions seemed to fit the person they were after too well. The golden-robed man in the Dark Thunder territory who destroyed 3 prefectures was completely in line with Jian Yi, who appeared in the northern Darkstar continent and took up the Blood Gladiators challenge. They were certain the golden-robed man who destroyed those 3 prefectures was indeed Jian Yi. Elder Yu, what happened after that? The 18 prefectures have always been known to stand together against outsiders. After Jian Yi wiped out 3 of them, won't the other 15 prefectures want to hunt him down and kill him? Shi Qianhan asked. Yes, the other 15 prefectures tried their best to kill him and had indeed found an opportunity. The Luo brothers from Bloodlight Prefecture and the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor managed to find the golden-robed man. However, the Luo brothers were unable to defeat the man even when using their famed fusion attack techniques. Although the Infernal Prefecture governor is much more powerful than the golden-robed man, he too was also unable to kill him and could only watch him leave, said the green-eyed old man. The Infernal Heart Prefecture governor personally made a move, but failed to knock that man off. Shi Qianhan and the third elder were stupefied. The Infernal Heart Prefecture governor from Dark Thunder territory was well known throughout the northern Darkstar territory. He was recognized as the first-ranked expert among 18 prefectures in the Dark Thunder territory who was able to perform Sword World, and only a handful of people among peak ultimate gods in the northern Darkstar territory were able to defeat him. Although the Shi clan's third elder was also a peak ultimate god, his strength was inferior to the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor. It was no surprise the third elder failed if even an expert like the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor was unable to catch hold of Jian Yi. Damn it! I thought that Jian Yi is just a slightly talented genius in sword skills. I never expected him to be that good, and that he's been hiding his true strength. Now, I know why he's so confident and dare to take up the Blood Gladiators challenge with a 5,000 primordial stones bet. If I'm a primary-level ultimate god who's able to defeat 4 high-level ultimate gods and left the battle scene under the Infernal Heart governor's nose, he'll certainly challenge the Blood Gladiators. In the end, our intelligence network is too weak, and we lacked reliable information. We asked for Jian Yi's background check when he challenged the Blood Gladiators, but no one had informed us of what he did in the Dark Thunder territory. If I've known, I won't so easily let him challenge the Blood Gladiators. Shi Qianhan's face turned pale, with anger burning in his eyes, as he cursed. Both the green-eyed old man and third elder exchanged looks before the green-eyed old man said, "The Shi clan's intelligence network isn't to be blamed. The Dark Thunder territory incident only happened recently, and the 18 prefectures are unwilling to expose their failures and probably intend to cover up the news. I only found out because a good friend of mine happens to be from the 18 prefectures and told me over some drinks. Hence, it's normal the Shi clan's intelligence network is unable to find out about him in time." Humph! Shi Qianhan coldly sighed before finally calming down. According to Elder Yu, even the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor was unable to kill him. It doesn't make much sense to regret the outcome and hunt him down, since this matter had occurred, and the 160 primordial stones are currently in Jian Yi's hands. In the entire northern Darkstar territory, the territorial lord is probably the only person capable of killing him. It seems impossible for Shi clan to retrieve the 160,000 primordial stones back, so we'll just have to suck it up. Shi Qianhan sighed lightly. 160,000 primordial stones were quite a lot for the Shi clan to let go of. Nevertheless, The primordial stones were with Jian Wushuang, and they were incapable of retrieving those stones from him. 160,000 primordial stones aren't going to topple the Shi clan. The crux now is whether he'll hate us from the Third Elder's level-best failure in attempting to retrieve those primordial stones. He's a very talented genius, after all, and the Shi clan's future might turn bleak if we marked him, said the green-eyed old man. Let's see if he dares. Shi Qianhan sternly shouted, "We're already willing to take a step back. If he continues insisting on being aggressive and daunting, the Shi clan will pay regardless of the price to get him killed." Shi Qianhan was very confident in the Shi clan's capabilities. Although there were no experts in their clan capable of killing Jian Wushuang, they could always call for help. Even Earth ultimate gods could be made to move with a sufficiently large bounty. He was not too worried about Jian Yi's arrival. The green-eyed old man glanced at the Third Elder and said nothing. While the Shi clan was still in shock of what Jian Wushuang did, Jian Wushuang reunited with Xiao Tiexin in a secluded void. "Jian Yi, have you rid yourself of the Shi clan?" Xiao Tiexin asked. The Shi clan is willing to spend the effort to hunt me down for those 160,000 primordial stones. They obviously underestimated me, and merely sent a peak ultimate god along with 4 high-level ultimate gods to kill me, but their entire entourage has been toyed by me before I left without them noticing. I can only imagine the Shi clan leader being all worked up, sneered Jian Wushuang. "You're pretty much safe, since you could even escape under the Infernal Heart Prefecture governor's nose. There's no way you'd be killed unless they paid a great price to invite several peak ultimate gods and powerful experts by for assistance. I don't think the Shi clan will go to this extent for only 160,000 primordial stones," explained Xiao Tiexin. "The Shi clan is sufficiently wealthy that losing 160,000 primordial stones is likely a small matter to them, and probably won't take it too seriously. However, these primordial stones are extremely beneficial to me." Chapter 25:45 Peak Divine Demon, 160,000 primordial stones. Jian Wushuang's eyes instantly lit up. He was only a step away from Peak Divine Demon, and 20 to 30,000 primordial stones should be sufficient for his breakthrough. Not only was he able to make a breakthrough into Peak Divine Demon realm with those 160,000 primordial stones, but could also accumulate sufficient divine powers for his breakthrough into the ultimate god realm. Jian Wushuang soon found a secret chamber and began refining those primordial stones. His refinement speed may be terrifying, but refining all 160,000 primordial stones would still require quite some time. It took him 1 month to refine the 90,000 primordial stones he received from the 3 prefectures in the Dark Thunder territory. He needed nearly 2 months to refine the 160,000 primordial stones. In 2 months, Jian Wushuang had completely refined those 160,000 primordial stones and transformed them into his divine powers. It was well within expectation for his breakthrough into the peak divine demon realm, on top of also gaining a lot of divine powers. I can almost fight with any average peak ultimate gods before my breakthrough into peak divine demon realm, but now Jian Wushuang tightly clasped his hands together and felt his elevated strength. My strength isn't much different from an average peak ultimate god once I completely unleash my divine powers. Combining my space-time law understanding and sword skills that aren't any weaker than a peak ultimate god's with several of my secret techniques, I can fight against the average peak ultimate gods. I might even gain an easy win if I encounter weaker peak ultimate gods. His strength had once again greatly increased with his progress from first-class divine demon to peak divine demon. This was only from being a small cultivation realm advancement. His strength would drastically be uplifted if he made another breakthrough to the ultimate god realm. He needed more primordial stones for that to happen. I have 160,000 primordial stones, but only used nearly 30,000 primordial stones for my peak divine demon breakthrough before refining the remaining stones. However, I feel that my current divine power is far from a top-tier peak divine demon. I'll at least need 400,000 primordial stones to advance into the ultimate god realm. For contingency purposes, I'm afraid I'll need more than 500,000 primordial stones. Jian Wushuang smacked his tongue while calculating. 500,000 primordial stones was a lot. He previously looted around 90,000 primordial stones when wiping out 3 of Dark Thunder Territory's prefectures, on top of bagging resources and treasures worth about 170,000 primordial stones, but that number was still a far cry from 500,000 primordial stones. He was halfway from his primordial stone target. It would not be easy for him to acquire 500,000 primordial stones with many experts in the northern Darkstar continent. There are many clans in the northern Darkstar continent, with each being extremely wealthy. I'm afraid they're the only ones I could go after for such huge amounts of primordial stones. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Mr. Jian, are you going after those clans? Xiao Qiexin looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. Why not? Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He was more than qualified to find fault with those clans based on his current strength. It's not impossible, but didn't you mention you won't do anything to those clans unless they come after you? Xiao Qiexin asked suspiciously. I'm not going to kill anyone or go against them. I'm just finding ways to receive some primordial stones from them. I only needed a few 10,000 primordial stones from each clan. I'm sure that amount won't even hurt them, and they'll probably accept it, said Jian Wushuang with a smile. Is that so? Xiao Qiexin nodded slightly. Don't you need some sort of reasons or excuses when finding fault with those clans? That's true, but I think it's rather easy to find an excuse. Jian Wushuang smiled mischievously. Inside a very large and seemingly higher-end tavern 3 days later, those who were able to enter and exit the tavern were not weaklings, with many of them coming from decent backgrounds. At the tavern's entrance, a handsome young man in a white robe slowly walked into the tavern while being surrounded by many servants. Several waiters in the tavern immediately greeted him upon his appearance, while many people in the tavern concurrently stood up and greeted him. I haven't seen you for a while, Master Yiming. How have you been? Master Yiming, you managed to come over here amidst your busy schedule. Can I have a drink with you, Master Yiming? The handsome, white-robed young man showed a wicked smile upon listening to everyone's voices greeting him before saying, I've to go today, so I won't be here with all of you. Put everything you order in the tavern on my tab. Master Yiming is so generous. He's indeed a son of the Yi clan. Sounds of compliments came from every corner of the tavern. The handsome white-robed young man did not continue chatting with those people, but walked straight to the tavern's second floor instead. In a corner of the tavern, a thin man stood respectfully beside where Jian Wushuang and Xiao Qiexin were seated. There were many clans in the northern Darkstar continent, with each of them being extremely wealthy and cultured. There'll inevitably be a few dead ducks and troublemakers within such huge clans. Yiming is famous within the Yi clan for acting on his whim and fancies because of his strong familial background. His father, a high-level ultimate god, is an elder of the Yi clan. Many people who are bullied by him choose to keep quiet, said Xiao Qiexin. Let's go for him, then. Jian Wushuang smiled, slightly before glancing at the thin man standing next to him. I'll leave it to you. Sure, master. The thin man knew what Jian Wushuang was going to do, and immediately went toward the second floor of the tavern after Yiming. Jian Wushuang and Xiao Qiexin remained seated and quietly drank their wine. After a short while, a sudden crisp sound came from the tavern's second floor, with Yi Ming's low voice echoed throughout the tavern. "Idiot, where are your eyes? How dare you bump into me? Take him down and break his limbs and abolish his cultivation base." Yi Ming was furious. "No, stop. My master is mighty and just downstairs," yelled the thin man. "Your master? You're a third-class divine demon. What kind of a master do you have? Your master should stay out of this. Otherwise, he'll break his limbs too." Yi Ming's raging roar resounded throughout the tavern.